Sunday night.
Yeah,
Most
because
important molecule.
Molly just started a new job, right? So as it
Yeah, I gotta show up bright and early.
Oh my. What do you? What's your new gig?
Sorry, that's my dog. So I'm an attorney, and I just moved in-house to do like cybersecurity and
awesome.
privacy for a company. Yeah, I'm really excited.
Wow.
It's been really
Awesome.
fun.
Yeah.
That'll keep you busy.
Yeah, just a little bit. Although honestly, compared to the firm, I think it'll be. It's nice to have my weekends back.
Yes, darling, we're starting. Can you hear me? Please say there's. You can hear me in voice-wise here, because I always forget something.
Are we live? Our mic.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mike's a
That's
hot
our
mic. Yeah.
that's our shtick. We talk.
Hey.
No, see, that's the shtick
No,
here. We
I
talk
know.
over all this before, after, during. We talk over all our ads.
I'm just getting fired.
Am I
I'm just
Reaper-
getting fired up, Jay.
Yeah,
Just getting fired up.
My Reaper ad's 2 years old. Yeah, so I got because I've been trying to get a new one from him for 2 years. So there, I'm beating up one of my sponsors on camera right now.
Good thing I wasn't saying anything hot topic.
Incriminating, right?
It's always good to get them out early.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Oops.
of course. I missed a cue there, so turn that down.
One DM thing I've learned is to always tell my players when the mics are hot. We've had some close calls.
Oh yeah.
Especially because I play with a lot of DMs that try and keep it either soft M or even like PG on their channel, and so as soon as
Right.
we go to a bio break or something, it can quite easily change the rating of their channel.
So is it Ajo? Now Rob is being very, very kind and nice on chat here. He hasn't really started with the shenanigans. I like,
Not yet.
Would you consider your sense of humor dry or a little eclectic? Awesome. I'll blow through these. I'm gonna try and blow through these as much as I can. We're 12 minutes ahead here, so.
Gotta hit a tweet or something, Instagram maybe. Check something out, say when we're live.
Social media.
Yeah, I appreciated the shout outs from everyone. Thank you so very much. I'm assuming we're gonna have a really nice crowd for the discussion here. So get my 3D print companies in here.
Yeah, they should give you new videos now when you've made partners, so they
Well,
do the videos.
yeah, Anna, I got a bunch of new stuff from Troller Games, but I keep the Starship Warden up because it's so cool. So
Yeah, that one is fairly new
Mythical-
compared to the other ones.
Mythical Turian, that was thank you, and Gary Julian with the Prime
Hey.
sub right after one-on-one. We're gonna hype train it almost already. Wow,
Yep.
we're gonna have that one of those early hype trains. It looks like.
This crowd. This panel, so yeah. I'm always here, so I don't generate it.
Yeah, well,
The other ones
Oh,
are
Anna, come on.
crowd pieces.
Anna, you're here 95% of 90,
Yeah.
right?
Well, not on Thursday games usually, but
Right, and not during crafting Gabbins for
Yeah.
the most part. We do crafting
Yeah.
street. Oh, Troy! Oh, there we go. Thanks, Troy. Cannibal. Nice, five gift subs there. Do you guys want me to just say screw it on the here? This is what we'll do. This is what we'll do. We'll go right to the entry screen. How's that sound? Okay? They'll understand. We'll start early tonight.
I almost just out of habit put the link on my Instagram to my own page. Just like, hey, I'm going live. Go and click the link to my own Twitch.
Thank you so very much, Troy. Very kind. Turn the sound down a little bit there. So, yeah. So I missed. Let's see. I missed Gamescape and Troll Lord. I guess if Truck does come on, we'll run something for Troll Lord. But we're going to talk about what they're doing as a sponsor for the giveaways tonight too. So, some really cool things from our wonderful sponsors at Troll Lord Games. They're very nice. All right. Tino, what's going on? I should be able to hit some shout outs here on Don't you hate that when you're running on a screen that you don't have your alert box up and it's just like, oh.
I have no idea what's going on.
I don't either.
It's like where? Because I put a whole bunch of new sub alert boxes in there, so we'll pop some of those up here.
Well, I don't speak Twitch yet.
Yeah, I know.
Same thing. It's a lot of things.
It's a different language.
Checking in per Rob's command. My name is Karen. Well, thank you very much. Rob, you like Tulsa Doom? Like, if you told them if step off a cliff, would they do that for you?
There's a few that would.
Yes, that's awesome to hear. But you gotta have that. You gotta have both of your community. You gotta have your fervent followers and your casual followers and your in-between people. That's very cool. So, nope.
Yeah, there's people who have probably watched every stream I've ever been on and never spoken once, because there's always like
That's cool.
at least double or more people watching than there are speaking. And I'm always fascinated. I'm like, who's watching and just doesn't? Because if you're not interacting, why are you not watching YouTube? Like, it's like the
Right.
point of Twitch. The point of Twitch is it's live and you're interacting with them live.
Right.
But there's always people watching that aren't interacting.
So we can talk about that, Robert. But do you prefer Rob or Robert? I'm sorry.
Whatever. Don't
Okay.
answer to anything.
I have an older crowd, and a lot of them are from Facebook, and I can't get them to watch live, but they will go to the YouTube vid and watch it,
All right.
right? Because they just don't want. They just it's.
They watch it on their own time.
They watch it on
They
their
don't
own
need to hear
time.
what you're
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about.
But
They don't need to ask you questions.
yeah, it's just the way it is, you know. But it's a good observation. All right, I'm coming live now. What the heck? 7 minutes early is a little early, but who cares, right? We got to have a great crowd tonight. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Gabbin. 182. We're almost getting to 200, Anna. That'll be a fun one. I'm J.K. Lurkerzamba. With me, my always partner in crime, the great legendary Anna Meyer.
Hello.
Good to see you, Anna. What a crowd we have tonight for our 10th ever DM's Roundtable discussion, and we'll bounce things around tonight and have fun. And please, we'll take some questions from the audience too. So let's introduce everyone and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became a DM in the first place. And we'll start with ladies first, as usual. Molly, MJ, Russell, and I'll hit you with a shout out on your channel.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, I'm Molly or MJ. I run like a new channel, a new show on Saturday mornings. It's mostly been D&D, but also other RPG. So we hang out, we chat. It's really fun, called Heroes Brunch. Also on socials at MJ_Russell. I started DMing like relatively recently, a couple of years ago. I always wanted to play, and it was a situation where I had a lot of interest in, but nobody volunteered to be a DM. And I love fantasy and I love storytelling, so and I'm an organized rules person, so it just fell to me to learn the rules and start DMing, and I've been DMing kind of weekly for a few games ever since. Only recently started Twitch DMing though, which is a whole different ball game, but also fun.
Well, thank you, Molly, for coming on. And please note that MJ has played in the, are you ready? I got to say it, the Slav
got this.
Squad.
Hey!
Slav Squad. One of my special groups for Saturday nights, and plays Dylan, Clark Mage Thief, and is playing in our fundraiser in 2 weeks as well, with a brand new character, which I'm really excited.
I'm so excited.
Evangeline? That was her name, right?
Evangeline.
Yes. So we're looking forward to seeing Molly then too. So thank you for coming on, and hopefully you enjoy this conversation. I'm really looking forward to hanging out here with you. Dave,
Oh, hi.
how are you?
Oh man, I'm just I'm buzzing with excitement. I'm really excited to be here. This is a total trip. You guys are amazing, and I've been big fans of your channel. Anna has inspired so much creativity at our table. So just it's
Thank
amazing, and it's fun to be back with Molly. I've played with her, and we've been in some games together. So, and Robert, great to meet you. My name's Dave. I participate and contribute to a creative group called Guild Superior, or the Superior Adventurers Guild. We run games over on our Twitch channel. That's relatively new. We started about a year ago, and Jay, you were our first follower.
Was I really?
So that's kind of yeah. So
wow,
that's kind of cool. Yeah. So thank you. You really got the ball rolling.
Very cool.
Geesh, I haven't been DMing that long. I've been playing in role-playing games since I was in junior high school. A lot of early D&D, a lot of other games in between. Ended up in college sitting at a table for a while, and then it just kind of drifted away. And then a couple of years ago, started to get back into it with my buddy Chad and some others casually. When the pandy hit, it ramped up because we had nothing better to do. I didn't have a job anymore, and I was like, let's play games. So I had been DMing for, I think now it's been about 3 years, maybe a little over 3 years. Started running Curse of Strahd 5th edition, and kind of spun that off in weird directions, and then started this pirate themed Saltmarsh game at the beginning of the pandemic, and it was supposed to be a one shot, and we're still going a couple of years later. It's every Wednesday night. It's our Beyond Saltmarsh stream, and that's how I got connected with the Greyhawk community. It's been just amazing, the Cannon Fire Discord and you and this channel, and wow, great community to be connected with, and lots of, like I said, inspiration coming out of it. So thank you for that. I'm excited to be here, and I feel like I'm talking too much, so I'm going to stop.
No, this is great, man.
Awesome. It's a talk show, right?
Yeah.
It's a talk show, and here I always ask, hey, is it if we run a little late because we made tonight, and so be it. Let's just have fun learning some stuff about each other and enjoying the discussion. So I want to say something about the next gentleman here. I'm absolutely blown away and impressed by his professionalism and his level of what would be the word, charisma. Robert, I'm serious. You do a fantastic. Yeah, you do a fantastic job capturing an audience, and I really respect that. And I know it's well. Why don't you introduce yourself, Robert Hartley GM, please? Yes.
Thank you very much. Very, very kind words indeed. I'm Robert Hartley. I am a full-time dungeon master. I do this for a living. I'm a dungeon master for Viva the Dirt League, a comedy group in New Zealand that has got worldwide acclaim. They do very successful on YouTube for their main channel, and then we started doing D&D. And the people who are used to like 3-minute content, like comedy skits and things, they were like, not really for me for this half-hour content. So we split off and did a second D&D channel, and the people who loved it really loved it, and so they came across, and the channel took off in a big way. And then from that, I had a springboard to start streaming on Twitch, and people jumped across into that, and it just became successful enough that I could actually do it for a living full time. So that's what I do. I stream on Twitch several days a week doing D&D related content. I actually don't run my own games, except for the interactive game I run with the channel, where everybody in the chat gets a say in what happens to the character, and that's every weekend on a Sunday New Zealand time.
That's fun. That's a real fun one.
Thank you.
You sign like 20 points, like you give so many like block points, right, that they can utilize as it goes along.
It's so it's more that I kind of judge it on a lot of different things. So like if they come across a left or right, I'll just kind of say, hey, put a thumbs up in the emote. I've got a follower emote that's a gauntlet that's a thumbs up yes and a thumbs down no. And I'll just say, do you want to go left or right? Put a thumbs up for left, they'll put a thumbs down for right. And then people will decide that. If it's more than a binary option, then I'll usually put a poll in the chat. And if it's more than that, then I might put a keyword in the chat that people can say, and then I'll draw somebody at random and say, hey, you are the synapse of Apus's brain that can actually make the decision for the character right now. So that's a fun little interactive game we run every week. We're currently in a Green Dragon arc of the story, which is very fun for me. I love Green Dragons. And then other than that, I do Robert Reads, where I read some D&D books. We've read through Xanathar's Guide to Everything and the Monster Manual. We're currently reading through Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Tasha's, whatever it's called. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything.
Cauldron of Everything. Yep.
I do behind the scenes where I'd give like a director's commentary, so to speak, of the latest D&D episode that dropped, and tell people a little bit about what I was thinking of and how I balanced the fight and all of that sort of thing. So lots of D&D adjacent content on my channel, and then you can find me on YouTube actually DMing for the Viva guys. That's
and you do a show where you talk about that YouTube channel on Twitch now, which is kind of interesting. Yeah. So
yeah, that's called Behind the Screen.
Okay.
Where the new episodes go out on a Thursday night New Zealand time, and then I talk about them on Monday morning. So it's 3.5 days after the episode, and then 3.5 days before the next episode. It's like right there in the middle, so that people have time to actually watch the episode before coming along and getting spoilers for it.
Very, very cool. Now, since we have so many new people on, I want to say thank you. Anna and I will just tell us a little bit about ourselves as far as our DM experience. Okay, go ahead, Anna.
Okay, I started DM. I started playing in 7980, and I started DMing in 83, 84. And it was kind of funny. It was simply or kind of sad in a way, because we had a wonderful DM that ran our group, and we were so happy with him. And then he got a scholarship to. This is back in Sweden where I grew up, and he got a scholarship to go to the U.S. to study. And so he took off, and we started taking turns. And after a few months, and we ran 4 or 5 games each, and people just pointed and said, "Now you run the games from now on." And that I became the perpetual DM for 20 years or something, and never got the chance to play. And I just ran games, and it was fun. It was that kind of elevated me and forced me to learn more of the games. And so I've run games ever since. And then I moved to California 10 years ago, and that was the first chance I really to play more than I'm actually DMing. But now I run this is my second Greyhawk campaign since I moved to the US, and we're having fun. It's not a streamed game, but it's having fun. We play online, of course, these days. So, and I actually really started to run games online. So it's fun. So we'll see if there will be streamed games in the future. We'll see. Yeah.
Nice. I have to say, when you said you've been playing since 7980,
yep,
I heard 79 AD.
Yeah. Well,
I was like, it might be a bit of an exaggeration.
I'm not that old yet. But
you started playing games around the time that the Bible was written.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, it feels like it at times. So to speak. And yeah.
Robert, just wait.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I started in 1978. Okay.
Yep.
With a Holmes Basic set, and we started our Greyhawk campaign in 1980. With the exception of Ed Greenwood's Forgotten Realms game, we believe it's the longest ongoing campaign in existence, 42 years.
Quite possibly.
All right? Yes.
Ed Greenwood to tell us.
Ed Greenwood slapped me down and said that he had me by a year and a half once. So our good friend there.
I haven't. Yep.
Yeah. I'm an old school DM. My style is 1E, 2E with a lot of miniatures and terrain. I have a lot of the same players, but I do a lot of special games for a lot of the community. Ed Greenwood, Luke Gygax, Eric Mona, Anna, MJ, Darling, Bones. Yes. So we do a lot of that. Plus we have 2.5 talk shows. So you have Legends and Lore and Gabbin on Legends and Lore on Wednesday night, more Greyhawk based. This show, Gabbin Variety on Sunday. And then we have myself, Anna, and the great, wonderful map maker there, Alyssa Faden, have the fantasy mapping show once a month on a Friday night.
Good.
Along with thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I forgot to mention that I'm a professional fantasy cartographer.
Yes, you can
that's
see
my
on
day
her
job.
screen there. Yes, just a little minor thing.
Yeah, it's to
Right,
do
yeah.
maps and
Hey, Kayla.
stuff for my patrons and publishers and stuff like that.
Yes.
So,
So that's an introduction to everyone. Let me set the giveaways up here for everyone. So our great sponsor, Troller Games, which is a wonderful, wonderful company, has been going above and beyond tonight for this discussion. So let me set this up, and please, you'll hit exclamation point drawing. You just need to be on to claim. All right, it should be starting now. So we're going to do the following. And you may have seen it scrolling through already. We're going to give a hard copy away of their brand new book, which is the Castle Keeper's Guide, with shipping. So, and I said, with shipping if Robert wins it to New Zealand? And he said, yes. So there you go. The Castle Keeper's Guide, it's one of the ones I don't have from Troller Games, but here's their new player's handbook, the odes to the original D&D world, first edition. You got the freed on that one. So with shipping, and also two $25 gift certificates. So we'll do 3 giveaways tonight for everyone, to Troller Games. But here's my my special gift. All the guests tonight will be receiving. I feel like Monty Hall here. Will be receiving a 20. So MJ, Dave, and Robert, you'll be getting a $25 gift certificate to Troller Games automatically.
Very much.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
just
That's
note
so
that.
sweet.
Yes,
very kind of you.
courtesy of Chuck and Chuck may hop on later on if he's able to, just to say
Chuck?
hello. Chuck Cumbo, Troll Lord, yes, the community director. All right, so I have my first.
By the way,
yes, go ahead.
By the way, when you say it's bad that there's a small chance you might be shipping to New Zealand, for me, when I did a giveaway on my channel, everything I was shipping was from New Zealand.
Yes.
Not just the one chance that I might be getting into New Zealand. No, everything had to go from New Zealand. It cost me hundreds. I was like, I'm not doing that again. Can't afford to do a giveaway on my channel very easily.
Robert, even going to Canada is crazy now. I mean, and I'm not complaining, but
Yeah.
it's part of doing business here on Twitch.
Yeah.
It's the nature of the beast.
I remember when I used to give my brothers birthday presents when I lived in the same country, and then I moved to New Zealand, and none of them ever get birthday presents or Christmas presents.
Yeah.
I'm like, I might get you a voucher or something that can be given digitally, but I ain't without exaggeration, posting anything is almost always more expensive than the thing I've actually bought.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that makes it tough for Twitch, for doing this kind of things. Definitely. But the audience is worth it, right? It's one of those things
sure.
that the audience is definitely.
The giveaway that I was doing was to celebrate me becoming partner, so it
Very
was
cool.
definitely worth it to be like, hey, I want to give it back to all these people that have supported me and subscribed and all that.
So what, Anna? So now that Robert said that, at some point I will show what I did to celebrate partner at PAX Unplugged. And that is pound down a drink, competing against 9 other people, including some other streamers. I will show that maybe later on. Here's the first question of the night, and I always ask this. And whoever wants to take it up first can. Give me your inspiration. Who inspired you? Who inspires you? Who do you look up to for your DMing? It's your style. What you do?
I'll go first because mine's the generic, boring answer of Matt Mercer, of course.
Okay.
So I started getting into D&D in a big way, started finding all of the mainstream stuff. I found Critical Role, I found Dimension 20, I found Adventure Zone. These guys were probably my biggest inspirations. I found the GM tips with Matt Mercer and then Satine Phoenix. Matt Colville, all of the usual suspects on YouTube, your WASD 20 and your Taking 20 and How to Be a Great GM and Matthew Perkins. Just so many YouTube channels. And then once I started getting into DMing for myself and having less and less time to actually consume other people's media, started creating it myself. And I guess those inspirations just kind of stuck around, everything that the initial inspirations. And then, of course, there's the subconscious inspirations of the books that I read as a kid and the TV that I've always taken on board and watching movies and things. The things that you don't necessarily know are having an influence on your storytelling, but they're there in the background.
For me, it's that old Darren McGavin TV show, The Night Stalker. Have you ever heard of it? From the 70s.
I don't know it.
Yep. That's where Joss Whedon got all his inspiration from Buffy, was from that TV
right.
show. Yeah. So take a look at that. It's like 1974, The Night Stalker. Yep. Dave, Molly? What do you think?
Go ahead, Molly.
Okay, well, I kind of jumped into DMing again without having learned or absorbed a lot of media on actual playing D&D. So Tolkien is probably the closest of a inspiration for world building, and you want to make your own language, go freaking make your own language and maps, so that kind of thing. A lot of classic fantasy vibes. And then as I got more into the Twitch sphere, Kayla, Time Lord's Wife stream, I think was a great inspiration for me to jump on, and how kind of easy she makes the transition to DMing for an audience look. So that was kind of more of a personal inspiration.
That's cool.
If you haven't checked out their channel, you absolutely should.
Who was it, sorry?
Time Lord's Wife
Lord's
is
Wife,
the
yeah.
channel.
So-
Kayla runs it.
So Robert
the one that
rated
you
in
were-
like 150 people before we were even live, and I had Kayla on. I had Kayla on auto host. So a lot of them saw the stream that Tom Lord's Wife had today, which was fortunate. So very, very cool. Yeah, very good one, Molly. I'm glad to hear that. Someone that we know, and that's a good thing. Definitely.
Yeah.
Dave, you got to answer this.
I would say, a lot of similar there for sure. But, I would say early on, I was a huge comic book fan as a kid. So like Stan Lee and sort of the idea of heroes and villains has always been something that I've been drawn to. And that is whether it's books or movies or whatever, cartoons or whatever it is, it's like that strong hero is something that I really enjoy. And then as I've kind of gotten back into role-playing games over the last 4, 5, 6 years, it's been, the Matt Mercers, the Matt Colvilles, some of the YouTube. And then once getting into this community, I already mentioned Anna and the maps. And, I've always been very inspired by maps. Even when I was a young kid, I would draw battle maps. I didn't know that they were battle maps, but I would draw them and there'd be X and O armies fighting each other. And so I've always been really interested in maps. So that kind of gets my mind working. But right now, honestly, it's my table. Like it's the players that really draw that inspiration on me, because I know that I feel like I'm holding myself to a standard where I need to bring it to the table, and they do every week. So for me, it's that inspiration that keeps driving me week to week, come up with new ideas. So for me, definitely the table that I'm with, whether that's over on Guild Superior, or, I played it, like I mentioned with Molly, over on Kayla's channel or whatever channel that is. Whenever I'm with a group of people, I just get like energized, whether I'm playing or DMing, it's the table. And so that's been really strong for me, being with this community.
So you guys have all heard Anime talk about this multiple times, so we'll skip ours on this, because we want to keep it to our guests, and we'll jump in on some other new topic discussions here. So let's stay away from Edition Wars, right? Raise your hand if you're a 5e DM. Okay. So Anna's also what? Anna's also Pathfinder 2, 3.5.
Well,
There's nothing wrong with it.
3.5 and Pathfinder, from 3.5 for like 10 years and Pathfinder for 10 years, and now I moved to 5e, and with house rules and tweaks and stuff that I've always used.
Very cool. And everyone knows I'm an old school 1e, 2e DM, but I got a ton of customizations. So,
I have a running joke on my channel that I always tell Dead Aussie Gamer to shut up, because he's always bringing up Pathfinder at every opportunity, because he loves that game, and I'm like, Pathfinder, gross. And in reality, I've never actually played it. I don't actually have anything against it, but it's always just a funny joke to pretend like I'm against it. Shut up, Dak.
We've done a lot of 5th edition on our channel, but we've also dabbled into other systems. Index card RPG. We've played a bunch of one-shots or short shots with that system. That's been really fun. Right now we've got a Kids on Brooms game that's, it's very different from D&D, and I don't know how often y'all stray out of the world, but I think it helps bring in that creativity a little bit too, is just seeing how other things are done, and then you can create a homebrew rule or something that you like, to bring it in. So I enjoy that.
I was chatting with Sarah Moore just before Christmas, and she plays a lot of different one-shot games, lots of different TTRPGs that aren't D&D. And I was just like chatting. I just said, like, let's see how many we can name back and forth. And we must have been going for like 5 minutes, just like naming different TTRPGs. There's thousands out there, and D&D is not the only one. And I'm pretty convinced that one day I will play some other type TTRPG and go, this is the one for me. Like the reason I rebranded myself really early from Robert Hartley DM to Robert Hartley GM was like, I'm not going to be playing Dungeons and Dragons forever. I will eventually find, because there's so many house rules that I've implemented into D&D to be like, I'm just going to fix this thing that I don't like about it, and there's this other thing that I don't quite like about it. Yeah. I'm sure that there's a TTRPG out there that's like, this is it. This is what I was looking for the whole time. I just didn't know it.
No, there's not. Trust me. There's not. I've seen it all over. You know, there's so many different game systems out there, and like I have,
There's always going to be things you can tweak.
20 of these books are mine, right? And at 20, it's at least filled with
Yeah, but
all my
you,
customers.
you instead of
Yeah.
you complain about how bad it is, and then you house rule it rather than change edition. So you make your own edition. rather
Yeah,
than
that's
that
true.
invent something else. So
Very
that's also
true.
the way to do it. Yep.
But getting away from the edition discussion, here's my question: define your play style. Not the edition, but the play style. Whether you want to say, hey, I'm a theater of mind, or I'm a VTT player, or I wing it, or I'm a sandboxer. Let's see what you say on what is your play style as a DM. And the second part of that is it still ever evolving for you? You think that you're really not to that point yet where you're like, this is what I do. But, so who wants to take that up? I know that's a deep one.
Go ahead, Molly.
Yeah, I'll say, okay, sure. Here we go. So I think I story first.
Okay.
So everything I do, combat, RP, like puzzle encounters, whatever they're doing, skill checks, I like my kind of comfort zone and pocket is keeping everything very narrative focused, story focused. I like to do twists. That's kind of where I have like my DM fun. So throwing twists in for the players, I really like to surprise them. I'm trying to get more. One way I'm trying to evolve my DMing is making combat, moving from the like, okay, when I was a baby DM, you ran combat, was very basic. You threw it in, it was a random encounter table, whatever, and moving from kind of basic copy paste encounters into your campaign to encounters in combat that really is interesting and fun and not just the same shit over and over. I'm sorry, can I say it?
Yeah, you can say that.
The same stuff over and over again. So yeah, I'm trying to evolve that.
How about evolution? Your play style. Is it evolving still? You're DMing?
Yeah, it's I would say still definitely story focused, but I'm trying to build in a lot more complexity in the mechanics that I use. Because I have a lot of players who are very, very knowledgeable of the mechanics and really love that part of the game. So I want to make sure that I am kind of keeping them on their toes too.
Good. Excellent answer. Dave, Robert, which one wants to take that up next?
I'll
Dave,
jump
thanks.
in. Yeah, thanks. Definitely evolving.
Okay.
From a week to week basis, in terms of how to, I don't know, engage the players. Getting to know the table and kind of catering to what they're interested in. That's what I try to do. I also try to keep it narrative. I don't try to balance encounters. That's not something I intentionally do. I don't know if any of my players are watching right now, so if you are, earmuffs, but I'm not afraid. I'm not adverse to play or character death in a game. I know some DMs, and some players don't like that, and that's totally fine. And I'm okay with that too. But when I'm running a game, I'm okay if that happens. I typically have something in my mind for a way to address it, either through a resurrection or through some story narrative that would allow for a side quest for that to be remedied. I joke a lot about TPKs and this, but I'm not trying to do that. So that's where I don't want my players to hear, because I want them to think that I am sometimes, because it's kind of fun to joke with them. But yeah, definitely. As I'm consuming other media, I'm like, oh, that will make for a great piece in my game. So I'm constantly pulling and trying to figure out how to incorporate things into my game, whether it's a mechanic from a different system or it's a narrative scene from a movie or a book I'm reading. But yeah, I don't really pay much attention like challenge ratings and trying to balance out encounters. I want it to be more like, what would actually be the encounter? Who would be, how many bad guys would there be? Would there be a whole crew of them, or is it just one? Or like, what's the narrative? What kind of creatures? I'm not into like dungeons where it's just like random. I like it to mean something. There has to be some sort of I don't know, a narrative meaning to it. So that's kind of what I look for.
I
That
don't
gets me
run
going.
random encounters. It sounds like you're the same. Like
So you hate-
random encounters is just. I might have a random table of like each of the things I have chosen. These would all make sense to be there.
Same.
If they're going through
Yep.
a mountain pass, they're all going to be like. I'm not just going to roll a random table that they've published in some edition because I'm like, there's no reason that hill giants would be in my world in this particular
Right.
moment. And
Yeah, most of my random encounters, I will have a table of random encounters, but they'll all have a way to tie into the narrative of the story.
yes,
It won't just be like a random, hill giant shows up, let's fight. It'll be there's, something that ties back into the storyline, or it ties into a backstory. That's also something I really like. Is I like when characters give me just enough backstory that I can use to screw with them. That's fun. That's like my
for sure.
favorite thing to do. Yeah.
One of the good things though in defense of the random encounter is that it is a real good stalling tactic. I frequently don't have time for prep in as much detail as I'd want to, and I'm like, they could go in so many different ways. I don't know where they're going. They're getting towards the end of the session and I don't know which there's a random encounter. I could throw a random encounter at them because it'll take up the rest of the session to fight it. Is definitely something I've done before.
That is a pitfall of Twitch. Especially if you're live streaming and you're thinking to myself, oh my gosh, do I hold to my schedule or not, or push it? That's something that we got to think about all the time, in addition to all the other stuff that you do normally DMing when you're just DMing at a table with friends.
Mhm.
So and it's sometimes my guys get a little frustrated with me, but then again, they're not making emotes of me. I'm making emotes of them with the tuna fish sandwich emotes. So everyone may get that joke there. So, because they can't remember.
Players.
Yes.
Well,
my poor players. Go ahead.
I was going to say, running a game on Twitch is very different than running a
Yeah.
game at your
Yeah.
table in your kitchen. Very different.
Yeah. The first time I ran a one shot on Twitch, just 70% of what I had prepped was like, that's out. We spent the entire time just in the beginning. I guess we'll jump to the end now because it's all gone.
I was just
One
going to
shots in general are hard.
I was just going to ask, when you live stream games, do you feel like you want to create like a little bit of a TV series for the cliffhanger at the end, and there should be at least one kind of cool encounter, some kind of you need to have these kind of elements for a good show in there, so to speak. So
Yeah.
That's one of the things that makes it so different though, because in my home games, I don't feel bad about getting to the end of a 3-hour thing if they've just sat around a campfire speaking in like real time for 3.5 hours in character. If I did that on a game, especially if it was a one shot on Twitch, people would be like, well, that was boring, or we're not playing those characters, we're not as invested as they are, we don't have the 3 years of backstory that they've been playing as. So there is a desire to be like, I need to have something exciting happen every half hour or whatever.
Kind of like those movie things where you're supposed to have an action scene every 15 minutes, right? It's hard to do.
Something's got to blow up.
Yes.
It's something I'm very aware of when I'm playing with the Viva guys as well, because we edit, unlike a lot of live play and actual play on YouTube, we don't do 4-hour videos every week. We film once every like 2 months and then snip it into half-hour chunks. And so I have to be aware of the fact that about every half hour or so, I need something happening. Otherwise that's an entire episode. People have been waiting for a week. The episode comes out and nothing happens. And then they're like, oh, okay, now we have to wait for another week. And it only really takes 1 week. It's fickle. People can love a thing. And then 1 week where they go, well, that wasn't fun. They might move off it and just not watch it again. So I need to be like, every week there's something to keep them coming back the next week.
Since I'm not running stream games, I can kind of portion that out over the campaigns. What I tend to do, one of my tricks is that first of all, I started 0 level, and that was kind of went on quite a long time. But what I tried to do is have some real hard combat early, meaning near TPKs very early on to set the tone to scare the bejesus out of the players that I'm a mean DM, and I'm going, meaning that way they should fear my powers of kind of snuffing out the characters instantly.
Crazy ass.
I like you more and more, Anna.
Yeah, but use that a little bit early on, because then you can be much more lenient and they will be scared anyway. Then you just need to show some dead bodies and their uncertainty in the air. There's some crows flying around, and you can just build that. And they will feel the next TPK is behind the next door, so to speak. So
I was literally talking about this on my channel just this morning, because on a much more of an encounter scale, I said I like to have my fights start off as if they're going to be a TPK, like have the illusion of danger for the players to be like, oh god, we're in a lot of danger, but the bad guy isn't actually as dangerous as you might think. They just have like a one ability that is they've now used it at the start of the fight. They did a big thing, and
that's what
and I hint that it might be like a rechargeable thing, and they're like, oh god, are they going to do it again? And they're never going to do it again. But
come on.
One of the best combat tips I got from a friend who does the Hero Club Twitch channel is, like, if you have medium level characters or characters who have gotten a little lax in combat, they're wiping the floor, throw in a bunch of minions that hit really hard and die quickly, but when they hit really hard. So it doesn't push out your battle, but it causes a lot more stress than your average minions.
Especially if you want to like encourage different tactics. Like if they're used to being like, oh, there's a big bad guy and lots of minions, always go for the bad guy, ignore the minions. And then if you start, as you say, hit them with hard minions, then they have to force to change their tactic and being like, oh crap, we need to probably take a couple of rounds to remove some of these minions from the board.
And some of the other things with combat, try to make it real in the sense that you try to get to the players understanding that these villains are fighting for their lives. They are so a lot of kind of traditional classic dungeons, then you piece out the enemies a little bit group at a time in every room, so to speak. But if you want to have enemies that defends the dungeon, they will put all the effort early on. So when they come to the dungeon, you should let them in. There should be a few guards. You let them in, let them fight into the next room. Then you slam the door and the outside door, and then you hammer them with everything that is everything. They will be terrified the rest of the dungeon. They could be a little bit buzzing at the end, and they will be terrified.
Because why would they have a dungeon where they don't have some way of communicating? Why do they not have alarm systems and bells to ring? And
try to,
oh god, they're
here. As a DM, you always should think from the enemy side, meaning what if this dungeon is there and then there? What kind of enemies are they preparing for and expect? And then ramp up the defenses accordingly. Meaning, is these the meanest thing and they're in a hostile world where they're enormous monsters and stuff will come and eat breakfast? Their defenses will be on edge. Or if they're tiny little goblins surviving in a little camp in a good country, they need to have very strong defenses. They will jump 100 of them and pour hot boiling oil or whatever over adventurers coming in early. So get that in. But then on the other hand, if the adventurers and players are successful 3-4 rounds, they will run over and then do the next same thing again 3 rooms further down, so to speak. So play these kind of things. Don't always have the enemy fight to the death. Make them have an enormous impact and then realize, okay, we almost slaughtered him, and then move back and repeat and do do the same thing again.
Yeah, big
from there,
big problem for.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, sorry, I was overtalking you.
No, but
Yeah, so the big problem with a lot of dungeon masters playing the monsters is that the monsters only appear when you enter the room and they disappear when they're dead. They're like, they never existed before that, as opposed to thinking this is a thing that has lived its entire life to this point and doesn't want to die. Or it doesn't want its children to die, or it doesn't want its treasure to get stolen, or whatever it is that it's protecting or doing. Like it's existed before this point, and it will try and exist after this point. It will do what it can. It's not just it doesn't give it that disposable feeling that a lot of monsters have.
And for instance, like a dragon, I had a dragon encounter with the party. They came in and they were like, and the dragon realized that instead of just trying to fight the adventurers coming in, so the dragon piled up 1 million tons of stones and rocks or whatever. So when the players got in, he could block the entry, so then sneak back up from the top and fight them from the in. So they had to fight and realize that the door was blocked, so to speak, because that was so try to figure out devious natural ways. Think like the monster. What would the monster do, so to speak? Don't think strategically, meaning a dragon would kind of have the entry as a way to funneling food and then block it and then eat it from the inside. So to speak.
I'm
Take the time.
constantly I'm
Yeah.
constantly looking at the intelligence stat of my monsters.
That's
I'm
the
always
most
looking
important
at it, going,
stat of any
how smart
monster.
are they? How
Mhm.
smart are they? Tactical? Are they
Yep.
are they the type of creature that works with others? Do they know how to retreat? Are they
Mhm.
dumb? That sort of thing. It's
Yeah, and
always
also time, meaning a dragon lived for 1,000 years and
Yeah.
can stay awake for a century. He will wait until they're half starved to death and then
yeah,
will be tastier.
he's
and then
happy
go
to
and
use
eat
that
them.
grudge.
Yeah. Mhm.
There's an easy.
Have
there's
you
Go ahead.
go
Dave.
ahead, Jay.
No,
I was
please,
just gonna
please.
say, like, have you seen Keith Amon? I think that's how you say his name. The monsters know what they're doing. He
Mm,
wrote a couple
Yeah.
of books.
yeah.
Fantastic, because it gets to
It's like
exactly what
your
you're
GM
talking
workshop,
about,
too,
Anna. Is
for
like
mentioning that.
these creatures, they're not, some of them are dumb and they'll fight to the death, but
Mhm.
some of them are very tactical. And
Yep.
so as a DM, you kind of have to spend some time understanding and getting,
Yep.
like you're saying, Robert, is getting in their mind of how they're going to react when all of a sudden these kind of adventures with a lot of bravado show up, and they're 7th level or whatever they are, and they're ready to go. It's like, okay, well, here it is. This is not a dumb monster.
The challenge rating system is broken. We can all agree, I'm sure.
Mhm.
But one of the reasons it is so broken is that people don't realize that they're using the monsters wrong. Essentially, that they're not using tactics and using the best abilities of the stat block and
I'm
stuff.
going to be a smart ass here.
Go
What the
on.
hell's challenge rating?
Yeah, you have a
I don't have any in 1E2E. All right, I'm kidding. So
Yeah.
a couple things. Watch Thursday night. I have what's called the Red Shirters. If you watch Star Trek, you know what that means. So there was a big fight in a bar, and the main characters had a bunch of thugs with them. Well, the baddies, they all got away, but the thugs who know nothing, a lot of them got killed off. So that's a nice way to make it so that the people or the things or the monsters that don't have a major effect on your plot line, they can get taken out. You always leave an area of opportunity for a main plot liner you want to develop to get away, whether it be a teleport, dimension door. Gaseous form potions are very good for getting away, something like that. Also, you want to talk about crazy. All right, I shouldn't use that word. I apologize, but Anna had a random encounter once where 4th level characters were running along a road, and a Death Knight came the other way.
Well, it was part of my world building is very much the world is that way. That Death Knight was going from A to B on a mission, and the characters happened to be on the way. So he was running, and I gave the players all the warning in the world. The weather is getting bad, and all the birds are fleeing, and everything. And the players would always play. Oh, that's interesting. That's gonna go. We need to go there.
This is something the Dungeon Master is setting up for us to fight.
Exactly. They were Pathfinder organized players, so they think everything is for their character's advancement, so to speak. So they ran there and they said, "Oh, we need to put a trap." So they put a rope across the road and held on for dear life and waiting. And the Death Knight ran straight up onto it, and I rolled the saving throw, and the nightmare, the horse
Nightmare.
failed,
It doesn't work. Nightmare.
Nightmare, and fell over. But the Death Knight, he rolled really high, so he just stood up from the horse and kicked his horse a little, or the
20
Nightmare a little bit.
fireball.
Yeah, looked around and see there's some smoker coming up trying to attack him. So he literally used his foot that kicked him to death, basically. And the other character were like, "Oh, now we're going to do our chance." And he was like, "Oh, damn, this is a damn ambush." So he used like Eldritch Fire and blasted them away, and then found one little character hiding in and told them that you go home and you tell all the other damn villagers here to not bother me again. And then he took off and on the nightmare. And then the players were like, "That's not cool. That's not
don't ever
appropriate."
think don't ever think you're the nastiest DM.
Yeah.
Yes. So just note that Anna's really hardcore compared. Now, is Amy playing your game, Anna? Because she just said in chat. Okay. I was wondering.
Session.
Wow. All right. So Anna has a great question for. So wait, Robert, did you really talk about play style at all? You want to discuss a little? I know.
My play style is I genuinely have like 3 different play styles, depending on whether I'm playing with the Viva guys, whether I'm playing with the interactive Twitch Tales on my channel, or whether I'm playing in a home game. In my home games, I am 100% narrative. I focus on it's 100% sandboxes in my home games as well. I literally prepare the world and nothing else, and they decide what to start, what to follow. And then if they're going off to the death planes, then I have to prepare what's in the death planes and what sort of plot hooks there are, what sort of interesting things there are to do there. And they make their own fun. They decide what to do and where the story goes. And I have like world-ending prophecies and things that are going to happen at like 20th level if they don't do something about it. But it's completely up to them whether they do something about it or not. In my Twitch Tales games, I have to be narrative, but a little more railroady, because there are sometimes like 100 people watching and participating, and as such, the brain of the main character can't handle 100 different synapses all deciding on different things, and they end up surprising me sometimes and being like, we want to do this thing, like walk down into a pit to hand feed a Sasquatch. So they can catch me off guard, and in preparation for those sorts of games, I have to make it more like multi-choice, like a choose your own ending book. I'm like, I have to have a few ideas of where they could go so that I can give those ideas to the chat, so that they don't come up with 100 different things. They can choose between the 5 things that I'm giving them. And then with the Viva La Dirt League guys, that is much more railroading style. It is like, I know I only have half-hour episodes to move the story along. Every episode has to move something along. It has to give some sort of interest and entertainment value, while also having like an ongoing through thing. And they're all terrible at D&D. They're so bad. There's maybe 1 or 2 of the players that are getting good. And in the last table session, to their credit, they actually started like working together and coming up with like plans and actually understanding how to play D&D and stuff. And so they're starting to get that way after 2 years of playing together. So I can afford to start giving them a few more like genuine options. But if I'd have started this campaign with giving them proper sandbox, they just all sit and look at me in silence and wait for me to move. Like, give me a call to action, give me something to do. And so they specifically asked me, can you make it more of a railroad? Can you just move the story? Can you just have something go in and we'll just go along for the ride? So I was like, yeah, sure. So that's my style with them. I am evolving it though. Like, I feel like with the influence of a good friend of mine, Dead Aussie Gamer, who is very cinematic in his style, and with chats with another friend, Matthew Perkins, who talks about how much he hates the word verisimilitude and says he doesn't watch movies to be like, this is really realistic. Like, I'm starting to move myself away from realism. I can feel myself evolving into more of like a cinematic story, and being like, we don't need to flesh out the specifics of realism of the world so much, and focusing more on like the cool scenes that we're building together, and going like scene by scene rather than like every minute, and working out real time, like, what do you say around the campfire now? So I don't know, there's definitely evolution happening in my style, I can feel, but if I wasn't evolving, we'd be dead, wouldn't we?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, I
My
think
games should need to evolve.
yeah, both of even after all these years, my game has evolved, and that's why I love doing the special events. It's always fun to bring the style to some new people who give you, just from them playing the game, to get new ideas on tweaking things. So yeah, definitely really cool. Anna, I know you got some questions here. Why don't you throw one out?
Yeah, and Robert, he kind of shut down my questions already, but it's kind of fun. I was going to ask about setting it, because I'm world building even more than DMing, so to speak, meaning maps is what is most fun. And after that, the world building and understand the world and the setting and the story and stuff. Meaning I can spend like a day thinking about, okay, who lived in this dungeon, who made it, and then how it evolved over, how old is it, meaning, and so on. And so I was kind of thinking, how much of the world is in your game, or how much is it just a story with cool actors and cool happenings and stuff? Is that a persistent setting, or
I'll take some of this. So in my home games, I have my own world I've created. I came up like I've got an outside in approach to world building, where I came up with the universe is it Carl Sagan that said, if you want to make an apple pie from scratch, you must first invent the universe.
True.
So I basically did that, and I invented the origin of the universe, where it came from, the multiverse, all of the gods. I've started actually writing a Bible for my world, which is just a crazy amount of work, but I'm really enjoying it. and like it just outlines the creation story of how everything came about. Eventually it gets to the material plane and how that came about, and then the world, the globe that is the main world of my campaign, all the different continents, and then zooming in on the European equivalent continent and even closer to the British Isles essentially. And then I've fleshed out those cities and all the different geography of that area, and the history. And then eventually I just kind of plop, there goes the characters into that world and deal with it. Like I know what's happening in a much grander scale and what the big bad evil guys are. I ended up splitting my campaign into 2 concurrent campaigns very early on. And so I ended up having to come up with 2 different completely big bad evil guys that are all both doing world-ending things, so that each of the campaigns have got something to push towards. So that's my world building with my home games, and my Twitch Tales game is in the same world. So that helps, because it means that there's slightly less world building to do. And then I'm in a very weird and unique experience as a Dungeon Master for the Viva La Dirt League games, because it's existing IP from their channel. It's set in the Epic NPC Man world, which is a comedy skit series that they do on their main channel about sort of like taking the mick out of video games like World of Warcraft and things. Massively multiplayer online TTRPGs. RPGs. So because it was existing IP, I had to kind of, I'm dungeon mastering in that world, but I don't have full creative control over it. I have to, every time we go into a new area or something, I have to sort of say to them, I don't want to give anything away about what's coming up in the campaign, but is there a part of your world that's kind of like the Feywild? And they have to go like, oh yeah, this forest down here is kind of magical. And I go, okay, cool. Is it fleshed out? Have you got cities there? Have you got anything I should know? And they're like, yes, no, whatever. And then once they give me that, I can then run with it. So it's a much more of a collaborative thing with my players to world build for the Viva La Dirt League thing. Cool. Weird experience, where especially when I'm in a place that is heavily existing already, like the town of Honeywood, which is the main sort of starter town that is completely fleshed out by their main channel. They've already established it in so many videos and things that I couldn't just change it on a whim, because then a lot of people would be like, is this canon to the main series now, or have we now diverged into some sort of multiverse situation?
Molly, Dave, would you like to respond to that? And here we go. They're starting to bother me already with the pings here. My guys, they're starting to bust my stones here. I'm gonna have to, yeah. So,
I'll jump off. I didn't start with like square one with my homebrew world. I did a lot of sourcebook perusal and stealing the things that I liked and pulling it all into a big mash world where if there's a village I liked from this adventure or the source book, I could pull it in. Just kind of, for me, conserving my prep time, making it more efficient.
Do you file off the serial number and rename it?
Oh, absolutely. That's
so you hide it a little bit. And then, you steal good ideas. That's the way to do it. Yeah.
I found that's I steal good ideas. I like, my games tend to run on kind of a horror vibe, so things get a little bit spookier after I grab them and put them in the world. But yeah, it's so. For example, like we have in one of my games, the group's in the Feywild. There's all these courts. They're in a summer court, and it's just Mad Max. Like they're in Mad Max Fury Road, and I didn't have to start from scratch because I could take all of this kind of existing ideas and then edit it and make it kind of what I wanted to do, ignore the details I didn't like and add my own. So mine's just a mishmash of everybody else's IPs.
That's okay.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm going to talk about collab after we go through. I want to say something because I always want to shout out our community. Dave, what would you like to say to that question from Anna?
Well, I guess, so my Wednesday night game is in the world of Greyhawk. So I spend a fair amount of my time sort of studying Greyhawk lore because while I am okay breaking Greyhawk for my purposes, I still want to kind of honor all the creativity that's gone into it. So like we started out in Saltmarsh, and so the Keeland Empire, there's a lot of information online about Keeland. And
Gary Julian's on. You just pressed the Gary Julian's buttons right there, Puppet Smedger.
Yep.
Okay, that was nice. Nice one.
and he's been super helpful in the Discord
Oh,
for
that's cool.
answering
Yep.
questions, you know. And so absolutely. So that was important. And then we traveled south into like Monmerg and the Hold of the Sea Princes, and eventually we ended up on Cybert Isle. And I know there's folks that are working on Cybert, lore. I couldn't wait. I just created my own.
That's the way to do
And
it. Yep.
Yeah,
and
Gary's
pulled in a
pulling
bunch
some in
of information from a movie called The Relic. I don't know if anybody's seen that movie before, but it created an entire, I don't know, 25 episode arc. And so I don't know. I try to set it. And we just recently jumped around a little bit to the to Arity and the Lord Protectors and Lord Kargoth. We kind of jumped into a little bit of
Oh,
Kargoth's
yes.
Death
lore, of him
Knights.
making a
That's
deal
my
with
next campaign or 2 from now. Yep.
yeah. So one of my characters, one of the PCs is connected somehow. We don't know how to that lore, and so there was a little bit of a shift in time, and we went back to a moment where Kargoth was making a deal with the Demogorgon. And so there's, I like to just pull things out of the lore and drop it in to my campaign. I haven't really done a fully homebrewed game yet, which, that'll happen someday because there's a lot of ideas spinning around. But I like using published stuff and then running with it.
So when you started, were you ever tempted to do the homebrew, or were you straight up like, I'll just go with published?
Well, so Salt, the 5th edition Ghost of Saltmarsh book, which is what I really wanted to do a pirate-based, sea-based campaign, and I didn't even. This was before I even knew anything about Greyhawk. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I have a 5th edition book in my hands. There you go.
There we go. There it is. I picked that book up, and it's very sandbox. It is an amalgamation of adventures that don't necessarily fit together that well.
Right.
But so I picked and chose what I wanted out of that. So, and I homebrewed how they connected together. And then I took a very minor character from the salvage operation adventure, Aubrek Dralian, and folks who watch the Wednesday game will know who this is. And I built the whole campaign around what he was doing while the party was doing a job for him. What was his motivation? That has led to where they will ultimately end up in the Amadio jungle, unearthing lost ruins and possibly opening a doom gate to another dimension. So, but I don't know. I never
had you already
ahead.
played in those published settings before as a player, before you started DMing in them?
No, I've always played in the Forgotten Realms in terms of D&D. So that's new.
It's why I did. It's why I started with homebrew, because there's so many years. Like I started DMing about 5 years ago, so and I hadn't really played in any of the settings before that either. I'd only played like a few sessions before I started DMing, but I just felt like there's 40 years of Forgotten Realms and all these other settings that it felt overwhelming to take on a setting that already existed, and I would have needed. I suppose I knew myself and the type of person I am. I would have needed to know everything about the settings and the history of it and the gods and everything. So if somebody ever asked me a question about who's the god of thunder, I'd be like, I don't know. I know it exists and I can look it up or whatever, but I would feel. Whereas if it's my own setting, I can be like, oh, the god of thunder is blah, 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 and make it up.
I mean, there's definitely the temptation to obsess about that piece of it.
Yeah.
My style is like, I'm okay not knowing everything.
Exactly.
I'm okay with that. And
it's good.
If I have to look it up, I'm cool with it. That's not gonna, and I might table it during a session and be like, hey, we'll come back to that, and I might sort of find a way to narratively sort of evade that question, right? Somehow.
Yeah,
but I will come back to it and bring it back up because I'm not going to know everything about Grey. I know that I will never understand everything about Greyhawk.
Neither do I, Dave. I've been playing for 42 years. Neither do I.
Can you guys, between you, give me a brief rundown on Greyhawk? Because I know quite a bit about Forgotten Realms. I know very little about Eberron. I know nothing about any other setting.
1980. Here is the original glossography made by Gary Gygax. But it's an amalgamation of a lot of other campaigns, believe it or not, in here. Alan Hammock's Ghost Tower Remembrance was plopped from his campaign into here. Blackmore's in here from Arneson, all sorts of things, but it's all been made into the Greyhawk setting. There's countries, some city states. It's got a different feel than Forgotten Realms. It's a good versus evil campaign, right, Anna? Wouldn't you say that for the most part?
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what good is, and
with
you know what evil
some
is.
twists and
Yeah.
stuff, and also
Yeah.
it's kind of a the reason I chose Greyhawk is probably not because it's particularly good. It's just because it was around when I started, and it was the Pandora's box I needed desperately
Right.
because I hadn't read any fantasy, and all the other ones had. So I needed my stuff coming from somewhere, so to speak. And
Right.
now I'm kind of, it's kind of wonderful to have been along for the ride because I could learn in bite-sized bites, so to speak, over 40 years rather than, and now it must be terribly difficult because a lot of these worlds have like been around for, like Robert said, for way too long in some senses, and there's so much lore, and there's like, you have to take a doctorate in reading in order to kind of get a setting in, so to speak. And so if I started today, I would probably also just develop my own world from the beginning. But I'm not that good at initial spark. I like much more to analyze what someone else done and then build on top of it, because that makes me kind of a little bit more happy or secure in the, otherwise I feel like I'm in imposter syndrome big time, so to speak, when I have to build from the ground up.
Here's the interesting thing to that, Robert, and everyone. I have a homebrew setting in Greyhawk.
That's what I have too.
Okay,
so,
if that makes any sense. I have the Knights of Ulick. They don't exist in other. It's my campaign.
Yeah.
The Free City of Altamira. Now it's on Anna's map now, but it's my city. So all the other stuff that's going on, the storylines go all the way back to 1980. And as all these other publications came out, I had a hell of a time incorporating them into my campaign. So bits and pieces got incorporated into it. It's
And Greyhawk is good if you pick up the 83 setting box set or the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer from 2000.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of cool. You can treat it as a canvas. Read that through and take the pieces you want and then build stories on top of it, so to speak, and then tweak whatever. But I haven't changed anything. My kind of obsession is to keep the story as it was and then build on top of it, add to it, rather than there are a few things I've changed, but not much. So my players will kind of, okay, there is a whole rich stuff built on top of what was there, so to speak, and advance it. So it's kind of a canvas to start from. That's how I see it. And it's a good one because there's enough big holes to fill. So and there are areas in the setting that is basically untouched. The great example is what Mike Bridges did with Ull. And that was an area that basically literally had like two paragraphs ever written, and he just invented the whole source book about it and took that idea. So you can become the master of your little realm and part of Greyhawk and build from it, so to speak. That's sorry, go ahead.
No, go, please ask.
Does Greyhawk have any sort of like a one-line gimmick, like it's a low magic thing, or it's all about it's steampunk, or
here's the one-liner. Yeah, there is. Here's the one-liner that was said in the original box set. You ready? Make Greyhawk your own.
Yeah.
I'm dead serious. That's in the original set.
Yeah.
So it is, as Will said, low magic in a hero setting, basically.
Yeah, and it's classic fantasy. It was all of these modern kind of cool versions weren't invented when Greyhawk was down. And a lot of it is dull and small. For instance, there is like saying, there's a huge landmark, like a huge pillar that is 80 feet big. Meaning Hollywood movies weren't invented when fantasy Hollywood was around when they wrote it. So you have to kind of beef up some of the stats and stuff in the book. But the embryo is there. So I see it as a good canvas to paint on.
30 seconds of touting Anna's horn. Here's the Free City of Greyhawk map. Now, this is customized for my campaign because I'm spoiled.
Ooh.
All right? So... Yeah. All right. So, I mean, you can see the level of detail here, Robert and Molly and Dave. I mean, here's Greyhawk City, all the locations around here. This is developed over years. Hey, Skagath, our Swedish friend there. Yep. 33 months. Holy gee, Skagath. You and Rethix are awesome. As we come down to my area here, we come down to here. Here's my Free City of Altamira, and a lot of these are settings in the Ulick States, the Lortmill Mountains, and Selene. This is a lot of my customizations. We're the Slav Squad adventures, Molly. This area right here. So note that
area seems a bit sus.
Yeah.
It is. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Swiss forest, yes, literally.
Drama.
So just note that, and this is only like a small area of the flan, as it's called. So,
Holy cow.
oh yeah, this is developed for 40 some years, and this is what Anna does. Anna's the best at it by far.
Well, it goes
I-
beyond
it-
this because Anna's developing the global. I mean, you have a global model.
Oh yeah, I'm starting to.
I mean,
I'm starting
the
now
whole
after
globe,
dip
Rob.
my toe into the whole planet, so to speak, and I have to do it carefully because it's like when you start visualizing something that thousands of people have kind of made their own virtual home, you have to tread carefully, so to speak. So that's
another reason I started with homebrew. I was like, I don't want other people to be able to tell me I'm wrong about.
Well, that is tough. That is tough. But I'm going to say this, and then I think we'll go on. Hey, hello from Scotland. We go on to another topic here because I don't want to make this a Greyhawk discussion, even though we love it so much. The collaboration with the community. I'll say this: I wouldn't be partner without the Greyhawk community. Never would have gotten there, ever. The collaboration that has happened from Greyhawkers led me to getting a module published with Carlos, Horror in the Hools. Okay, it would have never happened without the Greyhawk community. A lot of my storylines, the low road in the that I'm working on right now, the storylines in the Slortmill Mountains from Rich and from David Leonard. There's an underground, kind of almost like the Mines of Moria, run through this length of these mountains, and I'm developing those stories. Came from other Greyhawkers, so it depends on how you take the information and you work with them. And there's a huge community behind, and that's why we're trying to get more and more and more of streamers to do Greyhawk content like Dave, or playing it like Molly, and but do your own stuff too. So I soapbox enough for me, right? You think so, Anna? That was good enough.
Yep. Oh yeah,
that's good enough.
Because
Robert, I respect everything you do, and that's great. Making up your own home campaign
that's
gives
awesome.
you endless possibilities for publishing and doing. Like, I'm sorry, I don't really care at this point. We got the Fist of WotC Hasbro on top of us, right? It's not open up to DM's Guild, and we can't do anything. Right?
But on the other hand, they let us play in
they leave us
the
alone.
Backyard with the old content that is a long time ago. So so that
we're being left alone now.
We don't care about 1E2E. You can have
exactly.
Yeah, exactly, in the old school. So, but a great question back. So, but note that I think collaboration and partnership and working together is a wonderful thing. So.
I have a channel redemption on my Twitch that if you earn enough points you can redeem. I think I've called it "What's That Called Again" or something, or name that thing, and people can be like, "Hey, this town exists," and they can give me a little.
That is cool.
Whatever fits into the like paragraph that they can do in the redemption. They can say this person exists, and here's a little bit of his backstory, or this magic item exists.
That helps you, and that helps you build up, and that makes them feel part of the process and that's what we're trying to create here in the Greyhawk community. Is everyone contributes their own way, and that's kind of the great thing, and that's why this is a good shout out. That's why we have the Greyhawk Mega Stream fundraiser event in 2 weeks. 9 channels starting Friday. Our goal is $15,000 this year. We raised $10,000 last year. We'll talk about it at the end of the show, but I couldn't do that without everyone participating together. So, all right, Anna, another question. And by the way, thank you all for the support tonight, the follows, the cheers, the subs. It's been really fantastic. Hope you're enjoying the conversation.
Yeah, I have another question here. Meaning, when you plan a campaign, how long do you plan for? Is like the forever campaign, one shots, or when you have a campaign, is it like a year? Do you have like goals and an end already in sight, or is it like, oh, this is a good start point, and let's go and see what happens?
Oh, wow,
it's a good question.
That's a question. Yeah. I'll jump in real quick because my answer is going to be short. I have no idea where my campaign is going or how it's going to end. I thought I did at one point, but then it went sideways
you learned
on
better.
me.
Yeah, because I have no clue how mine would end either. So I've learned over the years that if you have one, then screw it. Players will find a better one. So
the one thing I do is I know that there are things happening in the world that will happen regardless of what decisions the players make. However, they can make decisions as characters to influence those events. And for me, that would be really cool if they did that, but they don't necessarily have to. But there's, That's my answer.
So
is I have
you plan
no
like
idea.
at least it should go on for like a year or something.
Well-
like you don't see an end in sight. It's like I start something cool and hope that it will keep going or
Yeah, I mean, in a sense. So when we
Yeah.
started this Beyond Saltmarsh, I mentioned at the beginning, it was going to be literally a one shot.
Mhm.
And then we're like, oh, the pandemic's going to be over in like a week. It'll be fine. Like we'll play one,
years
maybe
later.
2 or 3 games. And then all
Yeah.
of a sudden it was like, well, nobody's going back to work yet. Let's
Yeah,
keep playing. You guys want to keep playing?
And then we
Sure.
had virtual
Yeah.
cons, right?
Yeah.
Dave, when the virtual
Yeah.
con came up. So, and that
Absolutely.
started.
And then
yeah.
momentum just keeps
Yeah.
building. People are having fun. Next thing you know, we're like, hey, let's put this thing on Twitch. Why not? Like
Yeah.
we might as well. It'll be fun. And it is. And so it just keeps going. But there's a lot of, I mentioned that we play a lot of other systems and a lot of other games. So I imagine that this arc will come to a close at, in the not so distant future, but again, I have no idea when, and then a new story will start. So, but I don't know how that's going to happen. I have no clue.
Cool.
That's my answer.
Don't worry about it, Dave.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
No,
I'm serious. I have 20. I have
It'll work
26.
itself out.
26 different adventuring parties in my game. 26.
No.
Yeah, that's because
Yeah.
my guys are, want to start up hey, let's start up a new group. Okay. And then, but they all
Right.
exist. They all exist at the same time. That's the great thing
Yeah.
about a campaign. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You go to another
Yeah.
settings,
Yeah.
that other group is still there. That's
Yeah.
the thing.
I
And
do
they-
like the idea of
Yeah.
having multiple groups that either they do or don't interact with the other groups. Things that one group does might influence what happens to another
Yeah.
group. I like that idea a lot from an immersion perspective.
The problem I found with doing that, because by necessity I had in my third ever game DMing, I had 7 people at the table and it was just too many. And a couple of people went up to me afterwards and were like, I'm going to bow out. And I was like, no, don't leave yet. I swear I can fix it. And I just literally had a door come down between them in a dungeon and split them into 2 groups, a group of 3 and a group of 4. And then from that point on, I've had 2 concurrent campaigns and it was great. And yes, a lot of my world building, it's not like I have to do half the world building because I still have to do quite a bit, but some of it is already done from one group to the other, so it helps a little bit. But then occasionally they do cross paths and I have to keep a track of like timelines. This guy's just had a week of downtime and that was a problem.
Yep. I'm doing
biggest
that right
problem-
now. Yep.
The biggest problem I found though is because it's a real world and there's like, if some big event happens, like a big explosion or the mayor is killed or something of this town, the group B might hear about it and think that is a plot hook I'm giving them, when actually it's something that group A has already dealt with.
But that's
Oh,
cool.
And
yeah.
it's happened.
That
And it's happened twice though, that they've like gone out of their way to go and deal with
Yep.
plot hook that I've set up, only to find some other group has dealt with it already, and I can tell that they feel a little bit hard done by that. They're like, oh god, why are we always second on the scene?
Yep.
And
Can
so
I add
that's-
something to
that's
that really
something I have
quick,
to-
Yeah, go for
Yeah,
it.
please
I
do.
have done that. So there's a rival adventuring party in my Greyhawk campaign that literally could be another group of players if anybody wanted to, but they will swoop in and scoop the jobs from the other crew if they're if they're hemming and hawing on stuff, or if they back out, like they're like, we need to retreat and regroup. This other party will come in and they will finish the quest. It's happened. It's happened.
I've definitely done
antithesis
that.
group.
I've definitely done that
Great.
with NPCs before, and I think it is a great way of showing that the world is still moving. If you take a week of downtime, the world doesn't stop. And I
Right.
do use NPC adventuring parties for that reason. But it just feels a little bad to me when I'm kind of setting them up for failure because some other group has already done it, like my other players have already done it, and it's not something I'm doing to try and teach them a lesson of like, you need to make
Yeah.
decisions.
And there's also no reason that you can't, and I do this sometimes, group number 8, whatever. The Omega Patrol, hate the name, everyone, is doing an adventure, and then I run the Windborn, and we name all our adventuring parties, by the way. Some of them are really bad.
Mhm. Yeah.
Does an adventure, but it was 2 months in the past. But that's okay to do that stuff. You know, you don't have to have a linear timeline. It's kind of like stories in The Walking Dead where they bounce all over the place or whatever. In TV shows, you know, sometimes you could do that. There's nothing wrong with that.
I've also just like gotten over my own sort of I don't know if hubris is the right word, but my own need to be like, never see anything behind the screen, never show how the sausage is made. And sometimes I'm just like, hey, just so you know, this is something that the other guys have already dealt with. Like, it's okay for me to sort of break that, let them peek behind the curtain if it means that they're not going to waste their time pursuing a plot hook that's already done.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
No,
I was just gonna say that's a really
say-
good point, because I mean,
Yeah.
communicating with your players as a DM is really, really important. And sometimes for me, it's like, what do you guys think you want to do next? I'll ask them,
Yeah.
like straight up, what are you thinking next? And that gives me
what sort
a
of
chance
what sort of game do you want to play? Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Molly,
I'm sorry,
go ahead. Molly got an input on this, and then
Yeah,
Anna next.
yeah. I think I do a little differently. I have a long game. I always have a long game from like the start of a campaign. I have I don't know all the details, but I always come in with a plan for here's the story. This is what's happening in this story of this campaign, and this is what the ending, what it will be, what the big climax is. I don't know how it will end, but this will be the big climax, and these will be the kind of arc 2, arc 3 big major story points along the way. I've had to adjust that all, and it changes, and sometimes it'll change because the campaign will end sooner than I think, and so I want to give them a satisfying ending earlier. Sometimes it'll change because the players make completely unexpected choices, but because I really like to seed twists and reveals that are meaningful narratively to the players, I kind of have to have in my mind what is meaningful on the story level. So even if they have a little quest here or a quest there, it's very helpful for me keeping things organized and letting me do my little surprises to make sure I know what's coming narratively. I don't know how they're going to get there. I don't know what they're going to do. But it is like, it lets me create, I think, cohesive themes in a campaign if I have a story with some type of like ending, not even like what or where or who the ending is going to be, but a general ending theme idea. Like, what's the big conflict? What's the baddie trying to do, and what are they eventually going to have to do to stop?
Yeah.
So that's, I come into it from a lot more of a like big story perspective, and I've had to do a lot of adjustments from that. It's not as it can be kind of like smashing your head on the wall to see all of your notes that you now have to change because your players decided to go left instead of right. But it gives me a lot better sense of, it helps me improv in a way that seems like I've known what's going on all along, because then I can just wrap that improv back into whatever the story was.
Do you tell your players ahead of time, like, do you have that discussion with them? This is the kind of campaign I want to run. This is the story we're going to tell. These are the themes, and this is kind of where I imagine it ending. Or how much of that do you leave for them to discover?
We talk about my DM style, but I don't really give them like a plot summary ahead of time. It's more just that I think the story stays consistent for them as we go, and it also helps that I know my players very well, so I kind of have a sense of things that they'd like or wouldn't like. I don't know that I would do the same style if I'm jumping in with a group of players I had no previous like interactions with.
I have two questions for you, Molly.
Go for it.
Sorry, Anna.
No, please go on.
First of all, how do I get a seat at your table? And then secondly,
Always have a seat at my table, Dave.
Aw. And then secondly, at what point do you start with that? Like, do you have that before the campaign kicks off and you already know kind of that narrative big arc, capital A arc?
I have big outline pieces done with just so much blank space between the big outline pieces.
And does that come from the players? Like, once you've got your players, or do you have the arc before you even have the players and the characters solid?
It happens for me normally at the same time. I like the players to send me their backstory and their idea of characters as soon as they can, because I love to weave that into the narrative arc.
Me and you, I've talked about this a lot as well. Like, I'm not very good at coming up with a story without anything. Like restriction breeds creativity. If you have like, you have to work in this box, you can like come up with something at that point. And so I do the same. I get my players to come up with a character, come up with your backstory. You've got open reign to do whatever you want. Come up with as much or as little character backstory as you want. If you give me a single line, I will come up with the rest. But if you give me 3 pages, then I've got, you know, a lot more to work with. And then I take all of the different 4 or 5 players' backstories, and I say, oh, this person's mentioned this thing, which ties in with this person's backstory. I can come up with an NPC that kind of works for both of them, and then I can come up with a through-line story from that.
Exactly. It's like, oh, you had an evil uncle, I had this evil baddie.
Yep.
They're now the same person.
Exactly, they're the same person now, or they worked from the same. They both learned from the same guy. Yeah, the problem I find with that, not necessarily a problem, I suppose, but do you find that you have then inadvertently tied those characters to the completion of the story, and therefore they need plot armor to survive? Because if they don't, then suddenly all of your twists and turns are ruined. Because that's something I find with mine.
A little bit. I will say, I think my game runs slightly different than like Jay's, for example. Jay, you have so many different groups. The world exists outside of the group. I would say like my world doesn't really exist outside of my players. They're a lot more of the main characters, which is not everybody's choice. It's kind of just one of my styles. So it does give, we have had player deaths. We've had player deaths, we've had player retirements. And it requires a little bit of like bobbing and weaving when those characters were hooked up to my plot line.
Yeah.
I think it gives the party as a whole a little bit more plot armor than I would hope. It would be a huge bummer if they all TPK'd.
Yeah, because you've gone, well, that big bad guy who was one of your secret dads or whatever, like he was your evil uncle, and now he has no relevance to this new party.
I have luckily not hit that point where I've had to face what do I do post this TPK, but I have had players die.
I am in a situation currently in one of my characters. I'm in a situation in my home game where this guy, a tiefling paladin,
dope.
The player decided he was just too busy, wasn't his thing anymore, and he decided he wasn't going to come back when we had a little break over Christmas. So he wasn't going to come back, and I was like, okay, great, fine, that's your prerogative. Let's get another character in. But I'd basically given each of them a character arc, and once they've finished all of their character arcs, they'd all kind of amalgamate on the big bad evil guy. And now one of the character arcs has nothing to do with any of the party. It's just completely irrelevant. And now I'm like, okay, see if I can come up with another arc that serves the same purpose as this one was for this new guy that's joined the party, and somehow ties in with the big bad evil guy.
It happens.
That's fun though.
Yeah.
That part of the creativity.
It's interesting creativity.
Yeah.
And it is all right for DMs to meta game a little bit too, because players do it all the time. And as a DM, you can do it a little bit time too. And in a way, you can be. That's the way to railroad in secret, is to meta game. You can kind of like talk behind the DM screen and say, well, we can do this way. We can put the campaign that way, and then see what the players react to and stuff. And also one of the other advice to new DMs, don't mention keywords like dungeon, cave, and dragon and stuff like that unless you mean to, because when the players hear it, the character will march off in that direction instantly, and there's nothing taking out of it.
Blinkers on, we'll go in this direction.
I did that mistake. I ran two parties in the same overall campaign in the same time frame in the same general area to kind of make use of all the over prepping, and then I mentioned to the second new party that I started that the other ones they're heading off to the Dragonhide caves. And they were like, oh, caves. And then that became, I never told them what to do. And it was like railroading. There was like the biggest railroad tracks you've seen heading off to those caves. They never knew what they was. They had to go around asking everyone, do you know where the caves are? And then they rolled high enough that some little dude sitting somewhere pointed in that direction and then just took off.
I have a place called the Death Plains. And as soon as they heard it, they were like, well, we've got to go there. There's going to be something to do. There's going to be something to do. And all of the NPCs they were talking to were like, why are you going to the Death Plains? There's nothing there. It's literally a wasteland of death and monsters. Nobody survives it. And they were like, well, there's got to be something cool then. And then it did lead to some amazing like role-playing moments between the party, because after they got there and they killed a fire giant, and they were just kind of sitting around like, why are we here? What is when we're meant to be dealing with the orc warlord in the mountains, and we came here, and one of them's like, "Well, I wanted a sword, and I heard that there was a fire giant that could have made me a sword in the Death Plains." It's like you have a claymore. Because Robert was a new DM when he went, and you convinced him to give you a 2d8 longsword right at the very beginning of the campaign, and you do more damage than any other party member. You didn't need a bigger sword because his whole character is based around like anime. He's down here somewhere as well. He's got this humongous anime sword and bright blue hair, and he's like, "You didn't need a bigger sword," and he was like, "Yeah, but the fire giant." So they just
that
marched
early
off to the
DM
Death
move.
Plains.
You're like, "Oh, just drop a magic item. It'll be fine."
It'll
you guys
be fine.
want a bunch of
Oh, is that
magic items?
overpowered?
Sure.
You know how players will throw so many wrenches in on you, and the DM, and you got to be quick on your feet. You have to. You have to as a DM, and sometimes you're not going to make the right decision. Sometimes it's going to make a mess of things, but that's part of the charm of the game.
I did a mess today when I ran the session. I had one of the main villains in the campaign had to kind of came and wanted to show off to the party, and I had like a whole speech prepped and what he say, and I forgot to say the main thing that was going to swing the thing that way, and I forgot to tell it, and then when he walked away, and I was like, damn, I can't have him walk back again, so I just had to now we run with it.
By the way,
exactly, I can't meta game and say, by the way, I forgot this, so I just like, okay, I forgot it now. That whole arc will disappear, and it was like, oh damn, now we're stuck here.
I've had to a few times be like, I guess they find it in a book maybe later, or they found a note on their person after they've killed her. I can't say too much about it because it's for episodes that are coming up, so it's spoilers. But there's in the most recent table session, there was a situation where I was like, this person needs to get this exposition across during this encounter, and they just didn't give them chance. And I was like, well, that exposition's gone.
Yeah, but the players are amazing because when the kind of the key part of what that NPC wanted to come across wasn't there, and the players were like, "What the hell did he want?" He was like, "He wanted this, and then maybe he wanted that. That was a way to lure us, and whatnot." So they metagame the whole new plotline into it, so to speak.
And you're like, yes, that was exactly what I planned. Erase quickly.
Yep. So now we're stuck here, and I was like, damn, we need to get them out of here. I need to introduce this cool thing that will get them. No, that was like, I was building railroad tracks, but then I forgot to show them, and
Got to put the train on the track.
Exactly, I forgot that.
I'm genuinely thinking about making like a tongue-in-cheek spell that all my big bad evil guys will have, and it's a once per day cast, and it's called monologue.
Bloviating spell. Yes, I have that. You bloviate. Time to bloviate.
It's kind of going to be like time stop or like mass hold person or something, and everybody just immediately fails their save. There's no save against it, and he can exposition everything he needs to before you throw a javelin at his face.
Absolutely.
I'm definitely going to do that.
Yeah, and the spell will have like stipulations that he can't actually do any damage during the spell or anything. He can do nothing other than talk.
Yeah, no, definitely. You gotta have it. You gotta have your bad guy or gal, whatever, mouth off at some point. You have to. You have to try and infuriate the party somehow, or
I have a tongue-in-cheek spell. It's a cantrip that everybody's free to take, even non-spellcasters. It's called Exposition, and it's basically for when the rogue has gone off into a room, and I've just described the entire room and the layout and who's the guards and everything, and then they go back to the group, and then we don't have to say at the table everything that I just say, you cast the exposition cantrip, everybody knows everybody knows what you've just seen in the last 10 minutes or whatever, and let's move on.
So
it is kind of fun sometimes to let the player sort of recap what you explained, and you get the chance to see what they picked up on. I found that to be really interesting. Like, have you been listening?
Did you pick up on? Did you pick up on the subtle hint that I gave about that guy being immune to fire damage or whatever? No, you didn't. Okay.
There was loot. There was loot in the room. There was loot in the room.
Yeah,
we're going.
So if I don't think Bones is on, but if Molly knows Bones. Bones says I play mind games with everyone all the time. She'll type it in multiple mind games. Well, maybe I do, but that's a cool thing. My gosh. I'm sorry to hear those ding ding dings.
When it comes to descriptions, when you take old school games, it's kind of interesting. They might have been written by an engineer, an architect or something, and not a script writer, because you can tell they always start with the room's dimensions and it's like it's a 40-60 by room, whatever,
Yeah,
and the
right.
walls are bright, and all the architectural engineer, and then at the very end say, oh, there's a big ogre trying to kill you. Meaning, as a DM, skip if there is an ogre trying to kill someone who opens the door, start with that. And then don't even bother with anything behind it unless the player asks for it, and the character needs to spend an action to figure out what's behind it, so to speak. If the character is fully evolved in attacking and doing all that, don't have automatic, like they can see what if it's an illusion. Have them spend an action on doing a perception or trying to figure out if it's an illusion in the background and stuff. That kind of makes play both faster and more interesting, and they have to spend that, because actions in combat and stuff, that's kind of the resource that is scarce, so to speak. So if they have to do it that way, they have to, if they send out their familiar and they want to do all sorts of heroic stuff, then split it up into actions and have them, because then they will throw out half of it and just go with the easy bit, so to speak.
And there's ways.
What do you guys feel about sort of putting some of the DMing onto the players sometimes? I know that some TTRPGs, I'm thinking of 7th Sea particularly, everybody at the table is a writer of the game. And so would you ever say, like, if a player says, is there like a barrel of tar in the room? Would you ever be like, I don't know, is there? Like, do you ever give your players the onus to be like, if you spend an action to look for one, you can have one, or anything like that, where you allow them to come up with some of the world?
Yeah, and especially if it's kind of done on just on a spur in the moment. I mean, the players start adding, say, "Oh, my character's parents were a cobbler," and they start adding details and stuff about it. Let them have that moment doing it, so to speak.
Or if they come up with,
Sorry,
but if they come up with something creative, I want to reward the out of the box thinking. Oh, you thought of a way to like get through this room that had never occurred to me, and it requires something to be there that is reasonable to assume. Like maybe it's reasonable to assume there's like lantern holders on this wall. Sure, absolutely. I want to
something that you haven't necessarily fleshed out the whole room and everything in it. So if somebody goes, "Oh, is there a chandelier I can swing from?" You can be like, "Sure." I mean, this is a mansion. Surely there's a chandelier. If they say it in the middle of a stone dungeon, you're like, maybe probably not a chandelier.
That doesn't make sense. And then sometimes I'll have them roll for a perception check. But in that, during that roll, I will be thinking about, okay, if there is this thing, if that thing is here, how does that? How will that influence things? But I would say benefit of the doubt. Yeah, generally I will give that to people, because I think it's fun to have sort of co-authors, that's one of the things that I've tried to really, I wasn't good at this at the beginning, but being a good listener as a DM, and not just, and knowing when you need to carry the narrative for the table and when to step away and let them carry the narrative. And I think that's kind of what you're getting at, Rob. And I think that's an important skill that is something that just comes over time. I don't have it perfected, but I'm working on that for sure. And I think it's important.
I'm feeling like one thing I might start implementing is DM inspiration. I'm calling hero points these days to try and divert the confusion of bardic inspiration and DM inspiration. But I'm also thinking that the hero points, maybe I'm going to introduce a thing where you can spend your hero point or your inspiration to introduce that there is something in the world that didn't exist. So if you want to say, oh, I want there to be a secret door into this cave or whatever, then I can be like, okay, maybe that's, and as you said, Dave, like you think about it in the moment, you go, is that going to be game breaking? How much is it going to cost? If it's going to be like, oh man, that's going to really screw up everything that I've got planned for this, then maybe go, all right, if all 4 of you give me your hero point, I'll allow you to have some, you find a secret way into the, so that's something I'm sort of tossing around in my head at the moment, like having the ability to give some more of that authorship, as you say, onto the players, and be like, you can come up with something in the world for the cost of.
So
I do luck rolls too a lot of times. If it's something random in the world that they're looking for, they want to do, and I haven't thought of it, I'll just have them roll a d20, and if they're lucky, and if it's like over 10, they find with it. If they aren't lucky that day, they don't. So it's a little bit putting outside of my hand, and I feel like I'm not having to make a roll decision that I haven't made before that's going to possibly stifle their own world building.
So in my game, I have
Nice.
regular and special hero points that the audience gives during the game for the players, as some of you know. Regulars from turn-ins from cheers, from the points, and then cheers give specials. And I will sometimes someone will fail a save catastrophically, and I'll say, "All right, everyone, give me one special hero point," and then they'll get to re-roll it or make their save or something.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But so not only are they vested in the whole storyline, but the audiences too. So and it kind of that's a good way to make that link along with some other things out of the norm. It just depends. Once again, you got to tailor as as a DM your style that we're talking about here to the playing group you have. It just depends on the players. Some of them are very creative and very outside the box. Some of them are tactical. Some of them are dice rollers, right? Some of them are asleep. I'm sorry, Walt.
It's important to know the different types of players, and Matt Colville obviously has a fantastic video about different types of players, and it's important to know that some people that you think might not be engaging as much as you might expect them to be, it doesn't mean that they're not enjoying it.
Exactly.
I've had plenty of players who are essentially audience members. They like to play as audience. They will go along with the party. They're there for the fun of it. They're really enjoying it as much as everybody else, but they're not going to come up with the plans. They're gonna go along and hit some things when they're asked to.
One thing that I've started to do, I don't know if this really gets to your question that you were posing, Rob, but I've started to have the players make rolls that I would normally make, whether that's for how many. Recently, it was how many of the patrons in this tavern are actually these creatures, and they emerge. They slough off the skin of the humans, and they come out. And so I'm like, hey, Andy, give me a D8 roll. And so then that allows me to sort of take a little bit of the blame off myself when he rolled a 5, and it's like, okay,
it came from my hand, so therefore I'm responsible. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I've started doing that, and I think that's fun.
If they're the ones rolling it, would you ever let them use their abilities to like add things or subtract things, buff them, re-roll with advantage, any of that stuff?
It hasn't come up, but I think I would.
They'd be like, can I use my bend luck to subtract a D4 from that? Yeah.
I think I would allow that. And the other thing is I keep looking to see who's in the chat to make sure none of them are here, but I don't know if you do this.
They're all lurking.
But I do this a lot, and I don't know if this is just me or I'm sure other people do it, but I will ask them to make rolls like, hey, give me a D20.
Oh yeah, all the time. All the
means
time.
Nothing.
I say make a saving throw. Make a save versus poison.
Yep. Give me a wisdom save.
No reason. Yeah.
Give me a wisdom save.
No.
And it has nothing to do with anything.
Wisdom saves are fantastic because they could be somebody trying to scry on you. And then if you make your save, you don't, whether you make the save or not, you still don't know whether there is scrying on you unless you can see invisibility. So it could be like, oh God, what was that about? Yeah. Keep them on their toes.
That's fun.
So I got a question.
As you put your hand on the door handle, make a wisdom saving throw.
And they can always ask, like, "Are you sure you want to do that?"
Yep,
you sure?
Exactly.
Are you really sure? Yep.
I got a question tonight from GM Workshop. I want to ask this because I saw Commander Meerkat in chat say he or she, I'm sorry, Meerkat, I'm not sure, is nervous about DMing for the first time and is thinking about it seriously. And GM Workshop asked earlier, what do you know now as a DM that you could have used, would have been useful to reduce those jitters when you started DMing? I think it's a great question. What do you like?
It's just a game. It's just a game.
Okay.
And one of my thing is that I've learned now that you don't have to come up with stories and whole movie scripts just to run a session. You can if you can come up with, because what you learn after a while is that you can pace things. Meaning combat, you realize, oh, you don't only need to know what's going to happen the next 10 minutes. You can bog them down, send a few orcs in there, and nothing will happen more than die rolls and whatnot. So there are ways you can, if you start thinking, you don't have to have the end of the world scenario, or you don't have to have all these enormous story arcs. Just the local thug messing with them outside the inn is enough for a session, and it can be a lot of fun. You don't need to invent enormous things and whole world things and so on. You can just invent the small little things and have fun, go with them. That's something I wish I knew 30 years ago when I started being a DM.
I wish I realized how much, like how enthusiastic the players are to play.
Yep.
Like they have a character they're excited about, they want to get into their cool character hero stuff. And as a DM, I make the set for them to do that, but I could give them, nothing. And if it lets them go be their fun character, they will be excited for the session. So there's a lot less pressure knowing that it's not all on you to make the game. You have a lot of very excited, or 3 to 5 or 8, I don't know, however many people are at your table, you have that many people who are helping you make the game and are just as excited as you are. So it kind of takes some of the pressure off of I'm the DM, I have to like do it all.
Yep.
Yeah, and I would say if you are not nervous going round to a friend's for a board game night to play Settlers of Catan, then you shouldn't be nervous going around to those same friends to play Dungeons and Dragons, because you're playing a game. You're not going to be streaming it to 100,000 people. You're not going to be videoing it and putting it on you. Like you're just playing a game with some friends, and if they are friends and you're not nervous playing with them usually, then there's nothing to worry about. If you would normally be nervous going around to play board games with them, then you probably need to address something among your friends group.
Sorry for laughing,
because
but-
maybe there's a couple of toxic sore losers or sore winners among your friend group, and they make you nervous just being around them. In which case, probably it's not a DM thing. It's not advice about Dungeons and Dragons that's going to help with that nerves. It's advice about dealing with toxic friends.
That's a good point. And I think I'll just add one more thing is, and I think I mentioned it before, is communicating with the players outside of the game in terms of like, hey, we're doing this together. It takes a little bit of the pressure off you as the DM. And I mentioned like knowing when to carry the narrative versus knowing when to let the narrative just, go on its own with the players.
Mm-hmm.
Those are important things to learn. But yeah, if you communicate with your table and they're your friends, as Rob is saying, you don't have to put a lot of pressure on yourself. You don't have to carry the weight of the table on your shoulders. You can just have a good time, and the game is always going to be better when the DM is having a good time.
Yeah.
That is one thing I've learned being a player at tables, is that if the DM is having fun, then it's going to be a good session.
Yeah.
Yep.
Lastly, don't compare yourself to Matt Mercer or any of us here, okay? Or anyone you see on Twitch. Compare yourself to yourself. And just, if you had fun and your players had fun, that's all that matters. Seriously.
Only person to compare yourself to is who you were in the last session.
Yeah.
Like, try and be better than yourself. Try and be better than you were
absolutely.
last session.
And do
Absolutely.
it often. Keep doing it. It's when you do it a lot that's when you start having some sort of confidence. If you can pull off a session every week for a year, and that's one of my kind of I didn't talk about inspiration earlier on, but one of my inspiration was when I saw in organized play, I saw DMs, and I've seen other who run homebrew campaign week after week after week, like Jay doing it and others are doing it just for homebrew for their friends. If you can pull off session after session and keep your friends occupied and fun, that is inspirational, so to speak. You don't have to have a mass audience. Just go back and create fun every week, so to speak. That's kind of inspirational. So don't have enormous inspiration for it and stuff. So
It's okay to feel silly. It's okay to make
Yeah.
mistakes. Like everyone does it. Like you will make a mistake. You will forget things. You will use
Absolutely.
the wrong stat block.
mm-hmm.
It won't make the game
Or
bad.
at
Everyone's human.
Or at the end of a great battle with a real baddie you've been waiting for 2 years, and you look down and you go, shit, I forgot that ability they had.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, I
Yeah.
forgot to use that.
Yeah. Yep.
That happens
many
all the
times.
time.
That means that you have to send in a second batch to when you learn your stuff. So
About episode 87 or so, when that comes out, we're up to episode 76 now. By the time we get to around about late 80s, there is a moment during a battle when I go, fuck, I missed this ability that this person, and that's, I was like, God, they should have been using this thing the whole time.
Yep.
We all
That's
do
how we
it.
learn.
Yeah, we all do that, and that's okay. It's part of the game. It is. It absolutely is. All right, now here's a question from me. Give me one thing that you think you do that's unique, or like you got a little flair to, or something you've changed in a rule, whether it may be 5th edition or it may be So I'll tell you mine real quick. I've incorporated 3rd edition feats into my proficiency system in 1E, 2E. So I have a really all-encompassing system of weapons, specializations, and abilities that characters can take, kind of merging the systems together in a way. And plus a lot of homebrew classes and a lot of, homebrew subclasses and things like that. Plus I play with cool miniatures and terrain. So there you go. There's mine. So go ahead. Who wants to take that up? Something that's cool.
I've done quite a bit of home ruling. Quite a bit of my stuff initially was around fixing the maths. I'm a big maths nerd, and so there's a few things that I'm like, that doesn't work. That's not like I studied maths and physics at university, and so the fall damage just being like flat d6 per 10 feet fallen to a maximum of 20 d6 in 5th edition. I'm like, there's no acceleration. There's no, you're taking the same amount of damage for every 10 feet you fall. No, it's stupid. So I've house ruled things like I always roll round up. I round up if it's a 0.5 because that's how maths works. I've accounted for I use triangle numbers, meaning you take one dice and then another 2 and then another 3 and then another 4 for every 10 feet you fall. So that there's acceleration damage up to a limit, which is accounting for terminal velocity. Then I've got massive damage rules. So if you take damage equal to or greater than half your total hit points in damage from a single source, you have to roll a con save to see if you get an additional effect, like being stunned or being knocked out or something from that enormous amount of damage your body's just taken and going into shock. I've got lingering injuries. If you fail death saves by a certain amount, you could wake up with some broken fingers or something that take longer than just a cure wounds to fix. So I've got lots of little things that I do. I've got potion brewing rules. I've got rules on all sorts of different house rules. All just things that I go, these are tiny things about the game that I would like better if we played it like this. And as you say, like as I said before, like hero points. When I give out a DM inspiration, that's not just a you can give yourself advantage on the roll, because that's not heroic enough. That's you get to completely re-roll it like a lucky point, or you get to do something else with it. You can petition me. Hey, can I give you my hero points to do this thing? Thanks, DM Dave.
It's a lot.
Other DM Dave.
Yeah, one thing we do different is I give my players the option to recap. And if one of them decides to recap at the top of a session, the whole group gets an inspiration to start the game.
Yes.
And if they do that recap in character, they get an extra D8 bardic.
Oh, cool.
And let me tell you, the note taking has gone way up since that roll.
Wow.
How about if it's like the barbarian or something that goes, my character wouldn't take notes, wouldn't listen, wouldn't remember names, and therefore here's the recap. We went and talked to a guy about a thing, and then
They've had a few of those. They've had a few. Their less intelligent players have which is a great in character recap because it gets everybody in the mood and also emphasizes how much they should not be relying on him for plans.
yeah, that's cool actually. I do ask for my players to do the recap because I think it serves a few purposes. It helps like the last few minutes as I'm preparing, getting things out of my bag and like preparing, so they can actually be like helping themselves get into the mood. It also helps me to hear if they did not pick up on something very important from the last session or they haven't remembered it. And I go like, okay, they missed the fact that they picked up that thing. I can drop that back in. And it also helps them to recap for themselves and get themselves in the mindset. But I've never really thought about making them do it in character before. That's a cool idea.
Dave?
I don't know if this certainly isn't something that I've developed, but I enjoy using skill challenges in my games to speed action up. So it's kind of getting rid of the rounds of like what are you doing, then what are you doing? It's like, let's all talk about what's happening and then adjudicate it through a skill challenge. And then the other thing that I was thinking of, this is really dumb, but while you were talking, I was like, we recently implemented some intoxication rules because in Narisbin there's a tavern, the Black Anemone, where they have this fire giant gut punch, is one of the drinks they have, and it's like after one shot you're immediately intoxicated. Well, then you start roll. If you fail your con save, we start rolling on this table that has kind of drunk personas, like your
Nice.
friend, the person that wants to take their clothes off, the person that wants to be the therapist for their friends. You know, so there's a whole list of like D12 personas.
It reminds me
but
of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, they've got the different drunk Amy's, 2-drink Amy, 3-drink Amy, 4-drink Amy. Yeah.
Yep.
Great
awesome.
one.
That's
So
fun. I like that.
we're getting some great questions from the audience, and we got 20 minutes to go. Is it okay if we run a little late? I'm asking.
Yeah, I
Sure.
think so.
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure, because I don't want to, if someone has to go,
I'm good
please.
for a little while longer.
Okay, someone has to go. Please just let me know, but we won't run super late. But I just wanted to ask that question now because it's before I forget. Here's a question. Who would you want at your table?
Molly.
Who, so Robert and I have really been blessed, right? Robert, you had Stone Jameson and Satine on recently, correct?
Yeah, Satine Phoenix and Jameson Stone on my channel. I'm doing some work for them, writing for Apotheosis Studios. I've had the opportunity to play with some of the people that I really admire from other Twitch streamers. Dead Aussie Gamer and RobertHartleyGM are some of my favorite DMs. I've not DM'd for Matthew Perkins and Sarah Moore yet, but there's another couple of content creators that I love. So there's lots of people. I'm quite blessed because I'm in the opportunity to do this for a living. I do get the opportunity to DM for quite a few amazing people. But I think Brennan Lee Mulligan would be one of my favorites. He's just got such a way with when he's playing characters, and I don't know, his storytelling, his creativity, his ability to adopt personas and like really take them on. I don't know, anyone who is passionate about the game, anyone who gets along well with others and is passionate about the game in any form, would always be welcome at my tables.
Very cool.
Robin Williams, hell yes.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. Yeah, definitely.
Oh man, yeah. I think one creator I'm friends with, I just haven't had the luck of having him at my table, is if anyone knows Gabe Hicks, he's Gabe James Games on socials. He's incredible. Just a really creative individual and has all of these really fun ideas. I would love to have him at the table at one point. I would also say I love Brandon Lee Mulligan and anyone who has that kind of improv background that they bring to games. I think especially for streamed games, it just makes it such a entertaining environment that you don't necessarily always find. Just kind of someone who's trained to yes and with the party is an asset. But yeah, I agree. It's the more people I've played with, the more people I've kind of really become friends with, and I think there's such a huge community of really passionate people that I'm just finding on Twitch and Discord and Twitter, and it's a really fun community for sure.
Yeah.
Dave, I know you said Molly.
Yeah, I would.
Which is cool.
Yeah,
and Dave,
which is absolutely true. I know, I was waiting, Molly. I was like, "What the hell?"
Too late, Dave. It's too late.
Dave number one. Dave
like,
without
hit me up high. You left me hanging.
Just left hanging.
Honestly, as Rob and Molly were talking, I was thinking about my Sunday mornings. I have a standing FaceTime call with my niece, and she is one of the most creative people. She's 11 years old. She is all about dragons. I mean,
Nice.
She's really into make believe, and she goes so deep in.
Nice.
And so I would like to run a game for younger kids. I think that would be really fun, challenging, and I think it would go in a lot of strange directions. I've never done it before, but I would really like to play some sort of a version of Dungeons and Dragons with her and maybe some of her friends, because I think that would just be such a trip. Yeah.
I ran D&D for kids for like a year or so as part of my job, and mostly they were kids with various different special needs, autism spectrum disorders, and ADHD, and all sorts of things like that. And it was challenging, but it was a real different type of game. I've never had so many character deaths because they are so reckless with their characters, because their minds are always coming up with new character ideas, and they don't care about this character they're playing anymore because they want to play this other character. So they'll just be like, I'll run in there and attack the thing, and oops, I'm dead. I'll play this other guy.
Kids are great. I have a kids game with my son and Bill's son and Tim's son. It's great.
It's something else.
It's awesome.
And as you say, like my nephew as well, when you mentioned your niece, it made me think, I've got a nephew I've barely seen ever because he lives in the UK, but he's 6 years old now and he's got brain like a planet. And I was talking with him on FaceTime about some project he's doing at school, talking about mythology. And I was like, finally, we've got something we can bond. Me and my nephew have got something we can talk about. And I started talking to him about Medusa and the Minotaur and Greek mythology. And he was asking me about the monsters, and I was like, oh, hold there. And I took him downstairs to my things, and I'm like showing him off griffins. And I'm like, yeah, let's check out this. And this is a Minotaur, and this is a Medusa. Yeah, we had so much to talk about. I'm like, one day I'm going to get to the UK when the world opens again, and I'm going to run a game for my nephew.
Yeah. Hey, Mandy.
Good, Anna. I want to kind of promote that you should have a new player at your table, someone who never played before. And for me, I guess it's, I've played too long, and I've often played with people who played for decades. Meaning we know, we jaded, we've seen it all. We slayed dragons, we've been everywhere, and nothing can fool us, and we know all the rules, and so on and so forth. And so it's awesome to have a new player. First of all, they surprise you, and you can surprise them, and it's kind of fun when you can kind of build a narrative, and they're like, oh, wow, this is so cool, and they're kind of going through it, and you can kind of get that kind of new feel when they, especially if you can kind of, when they realize, like we all realize when we fall in love with role-playing games, it's a world of possibilities, and you can do anything. You can kind of keep this on. You realize it's more than Catan or Monopoly or whatever. This is something completely different. And when you can be there and deliver that insight to them, so to speak, that's, to me, it's unbeatable.
There's something that said, I've heard a lot of teachers say this before, like the moment when you see a kid suddenly understand something, and they go, and they twig. And we get a similar thing as Dungeon Masters, where we see a person flip that switch, where they're used to video games or board games, and they go from asking you, what can I do, to asking you, can I do this thing? And you're like, absolutely, roll this number for me. And they're like, and then that sudden, you can see it in their eyes when they go, oh, I can do whatever. And then the next switch that happens is very closely follows that, where they stop asking, can I do this thing? And then on their turn, they go, I'm going to do this thing and this thing and this thing. And instead of asking you what are the possibilities, they just tell you, this is what my character's doing. And you say, absolutely, roll this. So it's a fantastic moment of realization for new characters.
Yep, and it's good for everybody at the table to have a new one, so to speak, that can come up with new things, that doesn't meta game something to oblivion because they want to kind of squeeze out something. That'll just going for it, so to speak.
And having somebody having a party at the table, and especially if it's a party of new players entirely, where you can just be like, hey, you walk into a forest and you see a very, very life-size statue of a man who looks in terror, and they don't immediately go, okay, it's a Medusa or a Gorgon or whatever. They go, oh, I wonder what this is. Who made this? You can. I had. Oh God! I just remembered. I had a group of new players once where they were on a path out of town, and I mentioned that the bush sort of rustled, and so one of them went, there's somebody hiding in that bush. I'm gonna stick my head in it. And it was a shambling mound.
Nice.
Obviously not knowing anything about the fact that plants can be alive in this world. They just walked over to like see who the goblin was or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
Stuck their head, and then I described the plant just like, and they went, "Oh God, oh no, what have we done?" So their party name became the Hedge Lords.
A little bit of a nasty surprise there. And so Anna, Last time we played with Ed Greenwood and you, I almost strangled your
yes.
character with a camp
Yeah.
fault, and no one knew what the hell it was from Fiend Folio.
And it
So
was
you
the
can always-
second time, and I should have known better. Well, because that was the second time you pulled one of those on the adventures that we've been in. I think the other one we didn't get caught in. So yeah.
So I've been blessed. I've had Luke Gygax, Ed Greenwood, Eric Mona, Anna, Eric Boyd, Tony Winslow Brill, Eric Mengi, the list goes on. I mean, it's just been wonderful. Plus all my players.
I couldn't hear any of that over the sound of names dropping. Sorry.
Oh. So I've been real blessed, but I just want to kill a character run by Will Wheaton. I really do. I really want. That's what I want. I want to. Yes.
You won't have to kill the character. He'll turn up.
That's what I want.
In character description, he'll somehow roll a dice and die.
Yes, that's true. That's true. But that's what I would love. And so we're blessed. And I'll talk about it under shout outs. But March 5th, the next Ed Greenwood game, we bring in one special guest. And I actually have a Hollywood actor, pretty well known, playing in that game on March 5th. And we'll discuss that at the end. So
Nice.
yeah, some nice stuff going on. All right, a couple questions from the audience. Let's try to rapid shot these.
Okay.
One thing you want to try as a player or GM, real quick for me. Massed ship combat. That's what I want to try. I want to have ships all over the place, not one-on-one ships, but 5-6 ships, because I love to do that. That would be on my table with miniatures. That's what I'd love to try. Who wants to take that up?
I've tried it a couple times. It's never really worked to my ideal. I'd love to try a battle scene where everybody's controlling a battalion and represented by their minis, rather than individual fight scales. Everybody's controlling an entire warfare.
Very cool.
I like to do a full.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I'd like to do a full political intrigue arc. I haven't
Good.
ever done like pure intrigue, and that would be really fun.
Okay, that would be awesome.
That's what I do most of the time. Oh God, I'm
I know
so
you're working
deep
on it,
into
Tim.
politics in my game. It's nasty. Yep.
I love it.
Dave?
Politics of the Death Knights.
Yep.
Yeah, right. I think for me, it's high level characters. I'm very still intimidated by the idea of my characters getting to be like 15th, 16th, let alone 20th level. How to deal with that? I would like to do it. I mean, we will, but
Cool.
I'm nervous. So
Yeah. Tough.
I have one thing that I want to do that I haven't tried, but I'm planning to I just wanted to do it the right way, is dream-matic, adventuring in your dreams, in the character's
Oh.
dreams.
Like
Right.
That's something I want to
Ooh, that's
pull off.
cool.
Yeah.
I want to pull it off, and I have some
Like in Dragon Age.
ideas, and
Yeah.
and have some. I just wanted to I try to ease into it, so to speak. And I've done a few experiments in this campaign. When the IUCN said skull crows, it's one of IU's monsters I invented. It's a skull crow. It's like an evil crows and ravens, and when they come in murders, big murders, they can create magic, so to speak. They create illusions and all sorts of stuff, and confusion and stuff. And I just went on, and the world got more odd and odd, but my JD players were like, I don't believe this shit. And they made it roll, and then they kind of got saved. So yeah. So that's why I love new players, because they don't question things. They just okay, and then they go with it, so to speak. So yeah. But that's an area I want to dig into. Yeah.
How do you mentally prep as a DM? Another question from the audience. What do you do? Phew, that's a tough one.
I try to get into it. I take a walk, put on some good music, and I try to envision what the world looks like where they are, so to speak. What does it look like? How does it smell? Does it feel? What are the motivations of the NPCs and the factions? And I kind of try to play it out like a Hollywood movie, different versions, different ideas, and like I try to be like a script writer and a scene creator that combined, so to speak, and that's what I try to do. So I'm kind of prepped and have different ideas and just let the characters in there and let it run wild, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly the same with the change of, instead of putting on music and going for a walk, I'll just go over the notes from the previous campaign, the previous session, the entire campaign. I'll usually have a section of my notes that's like things to do or things to flesh out. questions that they asked that I was like, isn't that an interesting question? And really, I'm doing that because I don't have an answer for it yet.
Yep.
And then I'll add it to my note. Be like, they asked me this, which is some indicative of them being interested in that. And then I'll, as you said, I'll just put myself in that situation. I'll put myself in their shoes. Think about the town that they're in, or the city, or the countryside, the cave, where they've been to this point, and what they might be in. I'll just embody it like I'm living in the scene.
Very cool.
Unless I'm last minute prepping, which happens more often than I'd like it to, I need to get. I didn't realize before DMing, it really is such an energy drain. It's great, it's so fun, but you don't get to check out every, like your players do, every couple minutes or so if they need to. You're on the whole time. So before a session, I like to just I try to veg. I try to rest, lay down, like take a space from if I've worked or if I was prepping, and just give myself some like recharging so I can kind of jump in and be as fresh as possible.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm similar to that. I try not to do prepping before the session, like right before the session. I'll prep a day or two ahead of time, and then as I'm getting ready, I usually have on some dark ambient, something kind of creepy, listening to some tunes. And I'll review. I have a 1-pager. It's my outline, my session outline, and it has like, don't forget about these couple of thematic things that I want to make sure that I incorporate, whether it's like a vibe or an event that I want to sort of revisit or remind them about. And then I'll always go through my NPC list and I usually build out, like when I prep a campaign or an arc, I prep like the place, like the town or the the outpost, and then I have the NPCs, and then it'll evolve over time, but I always review the NPCs because that's where, for me, the biggest challenge is like remembering them all, what their motivations are, and then how to do their voices.
Yeah. How many NPCs do you normally prep? Do you only prep them after they've met the people and you feel like it's something that it's worth actually remembering because they're going to go back to them? Or
so I always have my what, I don't remember what I call it, but like my storyline NPCs that are important for the narrative, and then I have like the usual suspects, the tavern guy, the patron that they run into, the person that runs the sundries shop, so I have a couple of standard ones that I prep, and then it just evolves, and I'll create an NPC on the spot, but then I'll make sure I write their name down. Luckily, most of the sessions now are streamed, so there's a recording. So I also will go back and watch. I'll speed it up like 2 times a replay, so it's fast and our voices sound funny. But then I'll remember who the NPCs are as best I can. I make up a lot on the go.
It was the biggest mistake I made when I first started out. I talked about it on the How Not to DM podcast coming out soon, and it was that they were going to a small town, and I was like, well, I'm going to need to prep every NPC in this town in case they bump into them. I prepped the baker and the butcher and the chemist, and the town's guards, all of the town's guards, and I came up with like, for every one of them had I had an Excel spreadsheet, and I had a name, a race, an age, a gender.
That's
motivation.
What I've learned is that I keep an immediate names list for that I make sure that for whatever location there are, I have a names list. Meaning in the area right now, I using hobgoblins, so I have like a 30 name hobgoblin name, so I can just throw a name in there if I need a name, and then I keep a bunch of generic stat blocks for barkeeps, city guards, thugs, and stuff like that. And then I can just take a name and a generic stat block and run with it. And that kind of take care of that stuff, so to speak. But
the nice thing about goblins is you can just drop in the name Blarg. And that pretty much, that's standard for almost 80% of goblins.
Oh, I got better names than Blarg, trust me. Right, Anna?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you have some good one, but
but that's fun. Yeah, you can do that all the time.
I start when I start working on a campaign, it's usually a year or 2 before I want to run it. So that's when I start with strategic planning and start thinking, okay, and that's more like an area. What area or general theme? Like I want to run Sudden Shieldlands. So I started like 2 years ago. Okay, who are the main villains and movers and shakers? And okay, I don't want them in the game. So then I started developing all their lieutenants and henchmen, so to speak, probably about 100
Wow.
or so, just a name and one sentence, and
Right.
on each of like 100 NPCs, and I have them. And then I can start developing more kind of their henchmen and down 2 or 3 levels in the general area. So put the skeleton, make it, prep it a little bit now and then over like a year or two, and then have that as a skeleton to run from when you do your detailed prep, so to speak, and develop the map. And have a list of names and a bunch of generic stat blocks. Then you can run almost any adventure on the fly, so to speak. That's you can just invent a whole village from during the adventure, so to speak.
The more prepared you are, the easier it is to improvise and come up with stuff, because you know, okay, I can come up with this thing because it fits the theme of this world. This town, sure, it would have a magic shop because it's big enough.
But but remember, have lots and lots of generic stat blocks for all sorts of things. What's
your go-to human name when somebody asks you a thing and you're like, I think Steve is one of my Stephen.
No, I try to never fall into that trap. It's like I always have a name generator, and
I always try to have name generators up, and then there's inevitably they're going to ask something just when I've got a different app open, or I've got my phone on a different thing, and I go, his name's George, because it's Fred.
I've got a channel point recovery thing that has the chatters tell me to make an NPC name on the spot because I'm so bad at it and I need to practice.
The good thing is to know multiple languages. That helps. You can come up with a Norwegian name, or Swedish, or Danish, or an Icelandic, or German, or an American, or British, or something. So that's my kind of savior in that case. I have
the thing that saves me is if I'm doing it online, I glance down at my keyboard, and the first key I look at, I go, it's Terence, because I looked at the T.
There you go.
I go, his name's Carl with a K, because I just looked at K, and that's it.
Yep, that's great.
And then it's just remembering that name.
That's the problem, isn't it? Yep. If you feel like your players aren't going to write it down, if you say Carl and then you note it, and then you look at them and none of them have written it down, you're like, that's fine. None of us are going to remember what this guy was called.
So for me, I roughly have 1,000 NPCs in my game, roughly something like that. And about
you have 2,000 characters.
Well, yeah, it's been 42 years of accumulation. It's just like all the junk in my room, but it's part of the game, and but there's always need something comes up, and I always need another one, right? Somewhere to go, and it's just part of the game. It's just part of the fun of being a DM.
And always remember to name things like taverns and the odd little geographical feature outside. What's the name of that hill, that stream, and stuff like that, and come up with cool food names. So and stuff, what people eat, so to speak. That's kind of what are the cheeses called, or are there's some it's like troll piss and Jace.
That is a drink.
Yeah, meaning come up with these kind of quirks, or simply say they're so poor here, and after the war the only thing they had was turnips. So you have So I had the table turnip was the turnip juice that they kind of fermented in the backyard, and so come up with these kind of
I was
if your
worried
players don't go to that tavern, just move it to the
next
town.
exactly. They don't go there. You have it for the next town. Yep.
Chuck, you're coming on.
I was worried for a second that you meant troll piss was the name of one of the cheeses.
Oh, that might be. Yep.
Troll's piss. Here's the following. This is Gabbin at Lord Peakshaven. Okay, Lord Peakshaven is a bar in Tringley in the county of Duchy of Ulick. If you drink, the goal is to drink 3 of them. First one, this is old school. First drink, half your con save. So if you have 18 con, you roll 9. Second time, third your con save, round down. Third and final, quarter your con save. This is without passing out. No PC has ever done 3 in my campaign. There you go. Part of a party atmosphere there. And that happened back in like 1987. And it's like to this day. And kind of weird things that happen on the spur of the moment as you make up. Plus I was a little, 20-year-old dude back then, and still finding my way through the world.
You'll have to have me on to play sometime. I've never actually played any of the earlier editions. You have to.
Oh, absolutely, we'll have you as a guest on the game. We'll have you all as guests on the game. We're gonna have and we'll talk about that shortly. As far as the special events are flowing now. We got GaryCon coming up and a whole bunch of other things. Last question for you all, 2-parter, and this goes outside of D&D. or maybe not. Other systems you DM or play, another system, and one you'd like to. Okay, and we'll call that the best question of the night.
I have played a lot of Dread, which is the Jenga Tower one.
Okay.
I have played a system called Anime Campaign, which is just as it sounds. I've played City of Mist, I think it was called, which is like a superhero one, which was really cool. You've got 4 traits. At least one of them has to be mundane, like a human trait, and at least one has to be a hero trait. But if you neglect any of them, if you're not using your superhero abilities, they'll eventually disappear and they're replaced with a mundane trait. And if you become 4 mundane, then you forget you were ever a superhero, and vice versa. If you lose all of your mundane traits, then they get replaced with superhero traits, and then you become like an avatar, I think they call them, and you just like you lose connection to the real person, the little man. So that was a really cool dynamic. I've played some Monster of the Week, sort of 2d6 systems. I've played some some one-page systems like Sexy Battle Wizards, that sort of thing. As for GMing though, I haven't run many games outside of Dungeons and Dragons. I've never run any of the earlier editions, never run Pathfinder. I will be at some point, in the not too distant future, running a one-page Grant Howitt game. I think we're still deciding on what to do, but I think it might be Kaiju Schoolgirl or something, something to that effect.
So, like, what was it, Pacific Rim stuff?
Yeah, I think it's.
Oh, cool.
I think it's basically you're playing schoolgirls, but each of you has like a kaiju within you, and if you accumulate too much stress from your day-to-day schoolgirl life, you become a kaiju. And
wow.
it's going to be wacky and crazy. And of course, I'm playing with the usual suspects, the Dead Aussie Gamer, RobertHartleyGM. We haven't decided on which game it's going to be, but I'm pretty sure it might be that one. As for other games I'd love to run, I would love to run 4th edition D&D at some point, just to see why everybody hates on it.
That's cool. Yeah, that's because it's like playing World of Warcraft on it.
Yeah,
right? That's but I never played it, but I can imagine that it's the tacticals to the extreme, but but something that play it once. I know Matt Koval's run a couple 4E games on his stream recently.
He does, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that, Molly, Dave.
Yeah, I played Powered by the Apocalypse games, so Monster of the Week mostly. That was really fun. Recently played The Quiet Year, which was just like a map making game, which is really, really fun.
I love that one.
Would love to run Call of Cthulhu because I tend towards horror. And I'd love to run Castles and Crusades too. I've been chatting about doing that next month on the Heroes Brunch, so that would be dope.
Cool. Dave?
Boy, this might make people cringe, but back in the day I played a lot of Palladium, if anybody knows.
Yeah, that's okay. Cool.
Yeah, and specifically Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That was sort of my jam back in high school. And recently I picked up a book from Free League, which is Mutant Zero Gen Lab Alpha, which you play a bunch of mutant animals, which I'm excited about. But
I've played Mutant. Yeah, I've played Mutant.
Have you
Zero.
played that? Good. Yeah, I haven't played it yet.
One episode.
There's like 3 dice pools. There's the skill pool, the power pool, and the equipment pool, and so it's a different. Yeah, it looks really good. But the one that I'm going to be running. Well, there's a bunch, but the one that I'm really excited to run later this year is Mothership RPG. It's science fiction, like lose your mind, in kind of like dread and insanity plays a big role in it, which I think is going to be really interesting. But I love that genre of movie and storytelling, so I'm excited to play some sort of Dead Space kind of vibed Mothership. So yeah, that's the jam. Nice. I'm excited.
Anna?
Well, I played some Fate, and that's been fun and a very different experience from playing D&D and similar like Pathfinder and the other ones that are D&D derivative games, so to speak. So that's very interesting. That has a completely different mechanics, and that makes the game flow very differently. And it's kind of interesting. And in the beginning, I was so keen on running it. Now I feel more like, oh, it's fun to be a player, but I'm not so sure I want to run it. But something that I saw that made kind of me both kind of feel like, no, I don't want to, but eerily I kind of want to. There's a new edition that Free League is coming out with Twilight 2000.
Yeah.
Again, so to speak, and that was kind of
That
fun.
was cool
Being
back in
from
the day.
back in the yeah, exactly. It was cool back in the day. Had very an awesome, cool mechanics, but to me, it was too close to home because I was a soldier back then for real. So it was like, no, I don't want to sit and play and simulate work, so
Right.
to speak here. But now being retired for over 10 years, I feel like, damn, that might be fun to take some younger people to play in that, because that world is kind of sadly coming back, and kind of spook some people out a little bit by doing something and using. I was wanting to play with the rules and do a different scenario, not Poland in 1985 or something like that after World War III, but maybe use the tool and do some other scary kind of, yeah. Talk about political intrigue. You can kind of scare the bejesus out of a group of players by doing it, so to speak. That will be doom and gloom. So even Scandinavian me will have too much of it. But that's something I would kind of want to try, maybe. Yeah.
Please note that my perfect screen of all four of you is about to get messed up. Okay, because I think Chuck Cumbo is going to hop on. Yep, here he comes. So for me, Troller Games. You know, we're gonna have Chuck hop on because he says he has a surprise for everyone.
Hey,
So,
Chuck.
and did you shave?
Chuck.
Oh, thank God. Yeah, he looked really scruffy yesterday morning. So for me, BattleTech. You know, I do a BattleTech stream once at a blue moon. We'll have another one coming up. We did one right around Christmas time. I am actually playing my first Call of Cthulhu game with Alyssa Faden at GaryCon. So I'll finally get to play in one. Alyssa asked me, and I said sure. And if Tim's on, we used to play a game back in the day. It was kind of Road Warrior based, kind of like Twilight 2000, called Aftermath. I'd love to get back into playing that once the blue moon, but I'm scared that Tim would take it too realistic and scare the crap out of everyone with his middle.
Don't play it with Tim or me.
Because it's too real. It's like super real. So but absolutely, Aftermath it was a good game for its time. Yeah, definitely.
And Commander Meerkat, Twilight 2000 is not sparkly vampires.
No.
Reality. It smells of dead bodies, nerve gas, and vomit, and God knows what. But no sparkly unicorn or any
Trench
of that
warfare.
stuff. Exactly. It's the
Aftermath's
most horrifying. Yeah, it's nothing fun with it at all. Yeah. It's like a horror movie or like a
really selling it.
Yeah.
You're really selling it as a fun board game night.
Yep, it's not, but it's.
I'm in. If you need players, let me know. I'm in.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Everyone, we got Chuck from Troller Games on. Chuck, say hello, and everyone say hi to Chuck. And Chuck said he had a surprise for everyone. How are you doing tonight, Chuck?
Oh, I'm okay. I'm tired, but I'm all right. I've been sitting here listening to this awesome panel you got going on here. This has been great.
Very cool.
I do have a question for the GMs, if that's okay.
Sure.
I overheard that they all play 5e right now, right? So, so each one of you, just curious, experience or milestone?
Oh, milestone.
I started experience, then I moved to milestone.
Yep,
Milestone for sure.
Always experience in 1e2, Chuck.
Well, it's a funny story.
I don't know any DMs that use experience in 5th edition.
Yeah,
I
so
switched.
much extra work.
I'll tell you what I did. You're right. And I got spoiled by that when I played 5e. I played it for, I don't know, about 10 years now, I guess. Well, I've been retired from it for about maybe a year. So I still play in it, but I don't run any more games. I don't have time hardly to run games anymore. But when I do, I run mostly our stuff, Well, that's not true. I actually started running this.
Here comes the shot. Oh, there you go. Coriolis. Yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of Free League. Y'all were talking. I'm just like, their stuff's it's pretty good.
Solid.
Pretty good. That Mutant Zero, man, it's all good. Really, their whole system's really neat. I like the D6 pool stuff with the whole tension. Some of the games are like oxygen and electricity, or it could be tension, or it could be fear. All these things just play in a way. It's good stuff. But yeah, so
What's your surprise, Chuck? We already surprised them and told them all they got Molly, Robert,
There
and
was-
Dave getting a $25 gift certificate courtesy
Yeah.
of Troller Games.
Thank
We already
you.
know that. So.
Thank
no,
you.
Very much.
that's no problem. No problem. We love this community. This is a great community. And of course everybody here is fans of just get games, so it's good stuff. Yeah, but I was wondering what you guys would do. I got spoiled by a Milestone, and then it's so funny because the guys I grew up with, we run a game here once or twice a month. It's more of a hazing, really. They come in here and drink and give me hell, but anyway,
it is.
Love it.
yeah. But it was just kind of like with Jay's games, but they had to tone it down for Twitch. But anyway, they've been after me for years to do experience, and I just wouldn't go back to it. And then one day I said, you know what? I'm going to create a new experience table, and I created an experience table that works perfect for me. It's like Milestone when you put it in the grinder, and when it comes out the other side, it's experience for the players.
All right,
So everybody's happy.
that's good.
I don't have to spend 15,000 hours either. It's great.
I spent so long going through XP Excel spreadsheets afterwards going, all right, so I guess this person went off to the library, and so I'll give her like 50 XP for just like the role play that she did there, and maybe these guys were doing the attacks on that thing. I guess I'll just divvy the fight up between all of them, and I'll keep a track of this bit and that bit. And they started leveling at different times. I'm like, what am I doing? Why?
And no one's ever happy.
No one's ever happy.
Everyone's like,
Right.
"This
No,
many
then you get the
anymore?"
complaints of
I don't
why
care
is the
if they're
thief
happy
3
or
levels ahead? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
I
And why
keep
did they
Truck.
level in the middle of this fight? Because they got the right experience for it. Or
Right.
like,
But I keep the characters as low level until they complain enough, then I boost them up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm very
When they say
stingy
they're
with
going to leave the
milestones.
game because I
Yeah.
don't level up, then I
8 adventures, they were 0 level, Anna. 8. You did 8.
Oh, yeah, it took a
My-
year for them to get the first level. So yeah.
Oh
the
my
time-
God.
That's what I do.
The
I'll
time to
buy
level
it.
them is when they go, are we leveling yet? And you
Yeah.
go, oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I haven't leveled
Yeah.
you in a year.
Well, I have it set up by sessions is what I do. I actually have it all pre-relayed out, and then it gives me the advantage of during the game, if I want to give them a little extra, I can. It doesn't hurt anything, you know what I mean? But I don't have to try to like remember everything that happened, how many gold pieces or whatever this and that. Because golly, man, and it also slows down the game because if you don't write that stuff down, I mean, let's admit it. If you run a 4 or 5 hour game, you're not going to remember everything. There's just no way, If they're doing their job, and doing their part of making the experience good for everybody, they're getting involved instead of role playing, stealing, killing, whatever, So
All the good
it's
stuff.
all the good stuff. All the good stuff. That was really cool though that you all depicted Milestone. I was wanting to see about that. I was wondering. About
Good
that.
question.
Yeah.
All right, Chuck.
Yeah.
So I let him come on here, so he's going to be doing something else here, right? What do you got? No?
I don't know. No, not really.
No? Oh, I thought you said you had a
One-
surprise.
just add a
Jay
question.
have it-
Just a
I already
question.
had a surprise. I shaved my mustache off for you.
That was a surprise. All right, that's good enough.
Surprise is that he shaved.
So we'll do some great giveaways shortly here. Let's do shout outs for everyone. What's going on? Molly, why don't we start with you? What do you got brewing on your channel and your
Yeah.
what's going on?
Hey, I'm Molly or MJ. You can see me at Twitch at MJ_Russell. We run Heroes Brunch every Saturday morning. It's primarily D&D, but also some other RPGs. We chat, we prep, Dave is joining me this Saturday. We're gonna hang out. It's gonna be really fun. It's a fun, chill brunch vibes. Come hang out. And I will be playing with Jay at St. Jude's, the St. Jude's weekend with
19th.
Evangeline, the duelist. I'm
Yes.
very excited.
You get to experience Eric Mona playing the Venarium Vord, and what an unbelievable he's the Paizo director of Paizo. What an unbelievable RP person he is. So get ready for some fun, right, Anna? What crazy
He's a
fun.
blast.
Yep.
He is absolutely a blast. That'll be such a fun time. And the goal is let's raise a ton of money.
That's right.
Not over 9 streams. I know Dave's playing in Kayla, Talon Lord's wife's
right.
game. Troller Games, Steven Chenault, the owner of Troller Games, is playing a Friday afternoon DMing. So we got a lot of great stuff coming up for that. Really excited about the fundraiser. But Molly, thank you for coming on tonight. Hope you had fun.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, this was a blast.
Excellent. Dave, what's going on, man?
Hey everybody, my name is Dave, D_M Dave on the Twitter and the Twitch. Actually, the best place to find me is on the Guild Superior Twitch channel on Wednesdays and Thursdays. I produce a couple of streams there. On Wednesdays, I run a Greyhawk-based Beyond Saltmarsh game, which is the heroes are now in Narisbin in the Ulman Islands, and they're up to no good down there. Thursday night, we are playing a new campaign called Kids on Brooms, which is absolutely ridiculous. We just had our first session last week, so come by and check that out. I will, as Jay said, I'll be playing in the St. Jude's fundraiser later this month on Sunday in Kayla's game. Very excited about that. And also I play on every other Sunday over on Wiley Hobbit's Twitch channel. So hey, what's up, Wiley and the gang? I get to play a really ornery gnome barbarian named Kedney Craigbeam. Yep. So yeah.
Awesome. Dave, thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a blast of a discussion. Robert, I know you got a ton going on.
I am, I'll try and not bombard you with everything. I am the dungeon master for a comedy group called Viva La Dirt League. We put out comedy skits on their main channel. I wrote and showrun a 3 to 5 minute comedy skit series called D&D Logic, just taking the mick out of D&D. Then on our secondary channel, D&D, Viva La Dirt League D&D, we run the actual game. We play the game, and we split them into half-hour chunks so it's digestible. You don't have 3 hours every week to watch. We aimed for comedy and more of a railroady style, just to actually get these cats herded in the direction that I need them to go for the story to happen. And then aside from them, I also stream on Twitch on my own bat. About 4 or 5 times a week, I do various different D&D adjacent content. On Monday mornings, New Zealand time, I do behind the scenes where I go over the latest episode of Viva La Dirt League, and we talk about that sort of stuff. We talk about how the episode went and what I'd planned for them and what they missed, all the sort of behind the scenes stuff. Then I do Robert Reads, where I read some of the D&D books. Then I do, what else do? I do short rests, where I interview or chat with various guests. Lord Gazumba himself is actually coming on in next Saturday, is it? Next weekend?
A week from Friday,
Yes.
the 18th.
Nice.
Yeah. Next Saturday morning for me, Friday for a lot of you. I'll be chatting with Jay on my channel.
I thought it was 2 Saturdays. Oh yeah, it is. Wait a minute. So is it the 17th?
So not this Saturday coming. Saturday after this one coming.
All right, so the 18th for me. Yes, during the fundraiser.
Yes.
Yeah, during the Friday part of the fundraiser. Yeah.
Fundraiser.
Yeah, that'd be
We
so
timed it
awesome.
right,
Thank you.
everybody. We timed it right.
It's
So-
perfect.
He lives in the world of time travelers, Jay.
I do.
There's people living in the future over
Like,
there.
what? Yeah, that's perfect. I can't wait for that discussion. Thank you.
And then the other thing I do on my channel is an interactive D&D game called Twitch Tales, where you can come along to the chat and you can take part in the actual decision making of the character, the main character.
It is fun.
so-
It is
I
fun.
like that show. I've watched that. It's good.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. So yeah, I do lots of D&D. I do it for a living. So if you like D&D and you've liked my take on things today, then I'm sure you'll love my channel. Come and drop a follow. Love to see you there.
Please follow.
And thank you.
Yeah, please follow.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Oh, our pleasure. It's been such a great discussion tonight, and I thank you all for coming on. Please, audience, follow all 3. Please do that. Chuck, do you got anything you want to shout out?
Oh,
Sorry,
Lord
Chuck.
have mercy.
You got 30 seconds.
30 seconds. All right. Well, we just, a lot of you know this, we just redid our whole program on Fantasy Grounds.
Yeah.
We shelved everything and started over. Thank God. That was one of my projects I started 3 years ago. But now it's all straight. We've got new product coming out for that. We should have a new release about every 2 weeks from here on out. We've got all kinds of good stuff coming down the pike for them. And just so you guys know out there, our Roll20 development is moving forward, and as is our Shard and is our Foundry. So all that stuff's coming into play for this year, which is good. We've had a lot of stuff to do in the background because, as you guys know, we're very busy. Everybody's very busy in this industry. Even if you don't get paid, you still work. It's just the way it is. But new stuff for this year coming up for you guys. We've got our whole new line of Planescape stuff coming out. That's a working title. That's not really the title, but you guys understand that. Yeah, we're going to redo all of our older planar stuff and then put it into new books and stuff and bring it up to speed. So that's pretty nice. I'm pretty
And
excited
that's
about
30
it.
seconds. So
Yeah, you didn't stop because the products go on forever.
Good to meet
Yes. Thanks, Chuck.
Plus,
I don't feel bad now.
Nah,
I was only joking.
No, that was perfect. See, it's better. Yes, if another
there
guest
is
does it,
something
it's
else.
okay. Go.
There is something else coming out, but I can't say anything because if I do, I won't be allowed back on the show. But
Yes.
It's gonna
But
be
he
good.
wants to.
Yes,
I want
please.
to so bad. I
No.
won't say
Yeah.
nothing. I'll
No.
be quiet.
Yes, because
I can't say it, Chuck says while he writes it down on a piece
Yeah,
of paper.
Yeah.
Shows it off to the camera.
yes. Anna.
Okay, so I'll post my links in
Yeah, please
the
do. I've been
chat
doing it,
here.
but
Well,
please do.
and I launched a couple of days ago. I launched the first complete preview of the 2022 edition of the Flannies Hepmonaland map, and that one is now moving into the Atlas version is underway. That will be a new post coming in a couple of days where we basically split up this into 100 pieces. It will be 98 map pieces, and legends and credits will be 100 pages in the upcoming Atlas. And so that work is starting up, and I will also make a hexed version of it. And then the work on the 598 map is going to start. And my goal is to have all that wrapped up by GaryCon. So it's basically not much else happening. But there are a few other things. There will be more heraldry come in, but they've talked about. And there's also the Fantasy Grounds Mappers Delight online conference, and at February the 19th.
Fancy Ground College.
Yeah, Fantasy Grounds. Yeah.
Academy College, whatever they call it. Yeah.
Well, yeah. They sometimes they call college and sometimes academy.
Laren.
So, yeah.
Yep.
Yep. So I will be a part of that, and Alyssa Faden will also be a part of that, so to speak, and showcase a little bit and have some discussions and stuff. I hope that I can start my live streams, but the problem is that when I've done some tests, my computer don't like when I run all the stuff and stream at the same time. So it will be a little bit hazy, but definitely when I later this year get a new computer, then I can put a capture card and use my old one to do the streaming, so I can actually sit and work and effectively. But I'll try and see if I can up my game, but right now it's trying to get the mammoth of the 2022 edition out the door so I can move on with other stuff, so to speak, because it's been a mammoth work to get it out. But it's kind of cool. We've added to a lot of it, and I have a whole bunch of cool stuff planned for later this year and next year. A bunch of small little cool tidbit projects, because I don't want to just do enormous big things that take months and months and months. I want to have small tidbit projects. So I have about half a dozen, and I'm going to sprinkle them out to my top patrons that upcoming weeks and talk about them a little bit and like behind of it. And Daniel Boggs Dan Boggs and me have a couple of cool little projects in the back pocket to do that I think could be really, really cool. And they're very map related. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Awesome, Anna. I'll go through
Yep.
quickly. Let me see here. If Darling says yes, then I'll play the vid of me pounding down that drink. But Legends and Lore Wednesday night, myself, Greg, Mike Bridges, and Anna. We're going to have legendary Rick Miller, Dewar Carthon on, who's done a ton of work for the community, Earth Journals, Dragon Magazine articles, just tons of stuff, mapping. So we will have him on as our guest on Legends and Lore Wednesday night. Thursday night, my guys, my players, in a 2-week prelude for the fundraiser event. The adventure group, the Windborn, and late to the party. So you can figure out what that. So
I love your names of it.
Well, yeah, I try and keep it as vague as possible. So like, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah.
But they're going to follow up in the area that you were in with the last 2-drink minimum at Greenwood group where the Dark Elves were, and they're going to go to those towers, Anna, because they're late to the party. So, but something will be happening there, and it'll tie into what we're doing for the fundraiser.
Mopping up can be fun.
Mopping up can be a fun thing. If I have a Gabbin during the Super Bowl, I will be thrown out of my house. Okay, so the Gabbin's not next Sunday. The next one will be Monday night. All right, and it's going to be the prelude show for the fundraiser. And I've already sent it out to all the streams. You're more than welcome to come on and talk about what you're doing. I'm going to have some of my players on. I haven't set that invite out yet, but just to talk about what's going on. Some of the sponsors will be on. So that'll be next Monday at 8 p.m. instead of Sunday night normal, Monday night, just because. What's that?
A couple hours? Is it 2-3 hours?
Yeah, 2 hours max. 2 hours max.
Right.
So if you get Steven on, that would be great. Even if he
Well,
hops on for 20 minutes. I
He's trying to get
understand
us
that.
both divorced.
My wife doesn't care about Valentine's Day, though, so
My
it's okay.
wife-
We're going to have a nice dinner, and then, she's like, go ahead. I don't care about that. So Jimmy Duffy said the same thing from Prater's Reject, so note that. I know. Here's the game, just so you know. Saturday, February 19th. Eric Mona, Bones, Darling, MJ are all playing, along with Anna and a lot of my players. And it's in search of Cyan Urda, the poisonous. There Will Be Dragons game. Bill the Master Crafter stepped up. Wait till you see the terrain, the new terrain, and the new minis that are painted. Oh yeah. Plus something I don't do ever. I said I never do it as a DM in my life. I'm going to do during this game. So there you go. You'll have to figure that one out.
What is that?
You'll have to wait and see, Chuck.
He goes teleport us over to the right side of the map.
Yeah, right.
Yes, you never know, but that's going to be our big event, 7 p.m. on Saturday night, and the day before I'll be on Robert Hartley's channel promoting this and talking about some great things about D&D as well during that the day before, while probably while your stream's going on, Chuck. But I'll have it on in the background while Trollord's going. All right, two other things. Sunday, February 27th, Gabbin, Ed Greenwood returns. Villains of Greyhawk and Forgotten Realms. Okay, that'll be a real nice discussion. We're just going to talk about big guys and gals, right? From both. So we'll have Ed, Eric Mengi, myself, and Anna will be on. Yes, a nice discussion on the 27th, end of the month. We'll have a really, really fun time, and Ed will be right back the week after. And here's whoops, look at that. I doubled it up, my bad. The Adventures of 2-Drink Minimum Return. The actor Todd Stashwick, if you know him, and trust me, you know him. He's been in 200 things. Ed Greenwood, Todd Stashwick, Tony Winslow Brill, Eric Boyd, the father of the Forgotten Realms deity, Anna, and I may add one other person into that still, to that game to make it 6. So the 2-Drink Minimum will return, and Todd will be the special guest this time. We had Luke Gygax as the special guest last time, and that's what's going on in my little world coming up in the next couple weeks. And then we have Gary Con at the end of January. We'll get to that a little later. Let's do the giveaways, everyone. Oh, that's cool. March 5th is your birthday. Mine's March 8th. So there you go. I'm a Pisces too.
Yep, me too. I'm March 19th. Yep.
My birthday is on Gary Con.
Oh, there you go.
We're gonna drink it up, Chuck. There, trust me.
2-drink minimum.
Yeah.
More like 7-drink minimum here. So
mimosas.
Mimosas. All right. So don't say that. I don't drink mimosas. Come on, man.
I'm ribbing.
I drink Long Island iced teas or something other girly for food.
I'm a Bellini guy.
Are you?
Oh yeah.
Well, I will be.
Yeah, we got to be. So Josh already told us to behave. We're not even there yet, Chuck. My God.
I see that. I see him out there.
All right. Last call.
Always the
Last call for the giveaway. I'm going to close it out. You get your choice. If you want you got to. I'm assuming the first drawing is going to want the great hardback book. If you don't, please let me know if you want the gift certificate instead. But I'm assuming you want the hardback book with shipping. All right, and that is
it's a beautiful book.
Yeah, it is the Castle Keeper's Guide here. That is yep.
That's beautiful.
There you go.
I love it. Beautiful. I absolutely love it.
All right,
nothing but options.
Robert, let me open it back up if you didn't get in. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. I'll open it back up for
I'm
you.
only messing, man. No.
Oh, you sure?
I didn't. Okay. No, I didn't want you to send things to New Zealand.
Well, it's Troller Games sending it. Let Troller Games do it.
Let them do it. Yeah, let them. Do
it. Yeah, so good.
Here we go. First winner. El Bersidente.
Oh, I love his.
El Bersidente. As long as he's on the claim
emotes are the best.
Yeah, he has some good ones. El is on. I see him. You got it, El. I'm assuming you want the book.
All right.
Right?
Good job.
Got it. I think I got you on Discord, so I will link you into Chuck and give him the. Well, he's got a code. So what you're going to do, I'll explain to you in the Discord how to do that. Albert Setente, you got it. Now, 2 $25 gift certificates. We're going to raid into Darling Creep Show.
Oh,
and just remember, Darling, great players with MJ and the Slav Squad. Darling's there, and Bone. I know I can't say it. And Bones is playing, so you can raid into Darling, but remember you can have 2 screens on. You get credit for viewing both, so watch them both because they're playing in the same game. And that's Little Bones 309. All right, next winner. I usually hit the wrong button. I haven't tonight, Anna. Probably Hager the Horrible. There you go, Hager. Grats, man.
Yeah, you haven't.
You big boy.
Giveaway.
$25 gift certificate to Hager the Horrible. I know he's on.
Cool.
And lastly, last winner, and then sit tight for the raid. We'll go in, and please give them both, both Bones and Darling follows if you can, and everyone on here too, please.
Everybody follow everybody. We're all a
Yes.
group.
Mike Saxton,
yeah.
Retro Gamer Meth.
Oh, man, good job,
Hey,
man.
retro.
Yep.
He loves
And
his
he plays
movies.
CNC, so
Yeah.
I know he will take. But you know what? I don't see him on. Is he on? Uh-oh. I don't see. Yeah, he's on. He's on. I see him. I see him. He's in the VIP. He's in the VIP section. I just want to make sure.
Okay.
I just want to make sure in chat. Retro. All right, I got it. I'll send you guys the codes either tonight or tomorrow morning, or when I get back home from work tomorrow. Just give me a little patience there, but I'll get them out to everyone, including Molly, Robert, and Dave. Thank you. Thank you all for such a great show tonight. This was fantastic. Really appreciate your participation. And just remember that it doesn't matter what edition you play or how you play, as long as you're playing D&D with your friends, and that's all that matters. So, see you all.
Jay.
See you. My pleasure. Our pleasure.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks,
Nope.
everybody, for
Thank you,
coming.
everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's
Wonderful
great to be
discussion.
with
Pleasure
you.
meeting
I'm shouting out
Nice meeting
Discords
you.
real quick if you're interested. The Cannon Fire Discord for all Greyhawk Talk and the Virtual Greyhawk Discord. I'm shouting them out if you're interested. If you want to go on and see what's going on in the world of Greyhawk, please do that. We'll see you all Wednesday night for a cool discussion, and everyone have a nice evening. Thank you.
Night, everyone.
I'm gonna hit the wrong button.
Yeah.
I know I'm gonna hit the wrong button here.
Bye.
Nice.
I hit the wrong button.
Good
Thank
day.
you. I didn't hit the wrong button yet.
No, we've done the whole show perfectly.
Yeah.
Like you're a professional.
Super stream. Yeah, you would think. Super stream deck.
Pro.
Yeah.
All right, ring. Set the ring.
and,
Right
and we're
there.
definitely not hot mics now. I can tell you all what I really think of you.
Oh no, we're still hot mics.
No, go for it.
Yeah. You see, Dave always runs hot mics, so he
I
doesn't
always
get
do. That, yes.
nasty stuff.
Yep, there's been a few fun times.
Oh yeah, we've had some.
Yeah.
fun times, yeah.
Oh my gosh, we're going into Darling with over 100, 119,
Oh, that's
22.
good. She'll flip
Oh
out.
my
That's
gosh, she's
good.
gonna go
Wow.
nuts.
102,
5,
that's
4,
fantastic.
3,
1, 2, 3.
2, 1. See you all in a couple days. Have a great evening.
Bye.
Hey, we're done.
Yeah. All right.
I'm talking to my son right here.
Yeah. Have you turned off the stream now?
I'm turning it off right now as we speak.
Okay.